What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Blazin' Trails. Not Scorching Trails. I finally gave in to Steven's wishes. It's Blazin' Trails over here. We got a brand new logo, and it feels like a new show, man, because it's been months, maybe a year since we've done an episode. But I want to do a couple live episodes with you this offseason, man, because my guy Steven Vaughn, I'm always looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Steven, how have you been, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. It's good to see your face, not just text messaging each other. So I'm excited to be here, man. It's always fun to talk some Blazer stuff. We got some Blazer stuff to talk about, man. It's always good times.
Yeah, always good times. So I've been dying to get your thoughts on a few different things, a few different topics, hot topics surrounding the Blazers, of course, with what was a good season, man. We didn't do a show all season. It was actually a good season relative to expectations. The Blazers win 36 games after being projected 21 before the season. And if you guys got in on that line with BetUS TV, if you guys got in on that line, you could have made some nice cash. But 36 wins. The Blazers tie with the Phoenix Suns, which is insane to me. I never thought those two teams would be in the same universe this season. But, it's two teams heading in different directions. So what we're going to get into on this show, we're going to talk about Chauncey's extension, whether you think he deserved it. We're going to talk about Joe Cronin's extension a little bit. We're also going to compare the Blazers' situation to other play-in teams and see what that looks like. See what the Blazers, are they in a better position than play-in teams? Right now we got the final 9-10 playing game going on. The Mavs are blowing out the Kings. So we got that going on. I'm kind of glad to be streaming right now because play-in blowouts are just disappointing, So those are some of the topics we're going to get into, man. And we got a comment in chat. WTF, Eric is bald now. Eric's always been bald, okay? Don't let him tell you otherwise. But yeah, really looking forward.
I was actually thinking about that. I don't know that I've ever seen him without a hat on.
See, I used to always give him some crap about always wearing a hat and hiding his baldness, and he had to prove a point. He grew it out to like half an inch, and yeah, he had to prove a point. But man, I've been dying to know your answer to this question. Okay. So the Blazers finished the season 23-18 in their final 41 games. 23-18. They had one of the best defenses in the league after the first half of the season having one of the worst defenses in the league. Quite the turnaround on the defensive side of the ball. They finished 13 in adjusted defensive rating, so slightly above average. That was a goal of mine for them this season. But out of those 23 wins the second half of the season, very few came against above 500 teams, and even a fewer amount came against above 500 teams that had their best player. I believe it was 2 wins during that stretch against above 500 teams with their best player. That was Indiana. Tyrese Halliburton didn't look like their best player that night. Remember, that was the Toumani Camara lockdown defense game. And then when Dame returned to Portland, Portland, of course, beat him when they had Giannis as well. That was a great game. Outside of that, it was a lot of wins against the below 500 teams and a lot of wins against teams that were above 500 but had multiple key players out. So it's something that I've been wondering, and I don't even know the exact answer to this, Steven, but how much stock should we put in the second half of the Blazers season moving forward?
It's a good question. It's a good question because yes, the record was good, and there was definitely progress. Like, there's no doubt about it that there was progress. I think that we should put, like, if I'm grading it 1 to 10, I would say a 7.5. I'd say a C, maybe pushing up to a C plus, because I do think that there were some things that were real, and a lot of it is we at least learned that the Blazers have 5-ish players that could play for any team in the league, right? Like, even you look at Boston or Cleveland, like they would actually take some of these players and they could use them. And so OKC as well. And so I think for me, like, you have to take that seriously. You have to take some of it, what they did, seriously, because they actually played meaningful games late into the season, which nobody expected. You talked about that win total. I was on the under, so I was wrong about that. So I feel like you got to take it somewhat seriously, Tori, because we did learn some things where in past years we didn't learn anything. So I feel like it is. I feel like we did learn some stuff, and it is taken seriously. I mean, what are you on? Is it because it's like you said, they played not great teams. They didn't beat very many good teams, and even when the teams that they did beat that were good, there was something going on with it. But that's kind of the NBA. Like, I feel like that it's going to happen night in and night out. Sometimes you're going to get lucky. So I do take it a little seriously what they did, and it builds some expectations in the next season.
Yeah, expectations should definitely be higher next season. And during exit interviews, a lot of players talked about playoff expectations. They were kind of asked about it. I think the Blazers graduated from what I call the bottom feeder tier, the bottom feeder class. They graduated from that group, but they really only moved up into the next group, which is kind of like mediocre battling for the 11th seed. And 23-18, the final half of the year, with the Blazers having like a top 5 defense. I forget where it ranks. Like, that looks good, but that is a little bit inflated due to some of the circumstances down the stretch.
Yeah, it was like January 5th, I want to say, till the end of March. The Blazers were like top 2 in the NBA defensive rating.
Yeah. I think that's a little bit inflated from some of the circumstances that I talked about. So it's like they were better for sure. That stretch where they won 10 games out of 11, that was a great stretch. And we can look at multiple things like how good were those teams playing. Orlando was playing their worst basketball of the season. Portland got 2 wins against them, right? You beat Chicago, Miami, Charlotte. Those aren't the greatest wins, but those are a lot of games that the Blazers lost last year and would have lost in years prior, would have lost the first half of the season, right? I mean, they lost by 40 at home to a depleted Utah Jazz and Memphis Grizzlies team. So, it was definitely progress. I think where I'm at with it is this team now is too good to tank unless you really, really, really try to. They'd probably have to trade away a key piece for a draft pick in order to get bad enough to tank again. So they're kind of out of that group, but I don't think it's something that should necessarily change any long-term plans where they get aggressive this offseason, because I still think they're too far away from even a playoff spot. They finished 12 games behind the 8th seed, right? 12 games is a lot to make up in one offseason, especially when you look at like a San Antonio. Of course, we'll discuss the play-in teams and how the Blazers compare a little bit later, but you look at Spurs should be better. The Pelicans, if they're healthy, they might be a team that's in the play-in. It's a tough Western Conference, so yeah, it was better, but I think the one thing I'd warn against for this organization right now is don't just look at that 23-18 as if you're now an above 500 team and you're ready to make a run at the playoffs and maybe win a series, because I still think they're a little further away than the second half of the season would suggest on paper.
Yeah, no doubt. I kind of related it to, and this is coming from a real white guy, that when I go in the sun, I usually just burn right away. but I do know the process of getting tan, and that is to build a base.
Yeah. And
then you kind of get to the summertime, and then you can get, more and more tan and look better. And I kind of compared that to the Blazers. Like, I feel like the Blazers built their base, right? Like, it's spring break. Maybe they went to, Phoenix and they got some sun, and they're getting ready for that Oregon summertime when it's sunny out every day. It gets really hot. And then, they get really tan. They look really good. Like, I feel like the Blazers built their base. Tubani, Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson, Klingon. Who am I missing right now? Denny Avia, obviously.
Yeah.
I feel like they've built the base. They have a full baseline of players that can play basketball in the NBA, where last season, you could have asked me who's good and who belongs in an NBA court, and I'd have a hard time answering. So I feel like now at least we know, okay, they have a baseline of players that can play and how they're going to build around them. Now, they're still missing their top player on the team. You're still missing the best player. You're still missing possibly even a second best player. I don't know if Denny's really going to be a second best option on a really good team, but you at least have players that can play. So they've built the base, and now you can kind of say, all right, we're building off that. And I think that's enough to at least contend for the play-in. But like you said, it's not good enough to really make any noise at all. It's also not good enough to guarantee yourself a playoff spot. And you're way too good to tank because they have gotten out of the cellar. Like, they are not a terrible team. They are an okay team or a below average team. So the Blazers really do have to make a decision on what they're going to do. Is it going to be, look, we believe Denny Advia can be an all-star caliber player. We believe Denny Advia can be the best player on a playoff team, and they build around that, and then they use the draft pick, they draft a young player, they try to trade for maybe younger players, or are you going to try to get more proven, established player and team him up with Denny and see what they can do as well? I think there's different options, but I at least think that they have a base, and that's good. Like, that's more positive than we've had the last couple seasons. And now, like, I feel like a lot of people think I defend Joe Cronin and Chauncey Billups, but like, this is now on them. Like, there is at least a baseline of what it should be and what the minimum is. And if they don't hit that, then there's a real, like, they need to be out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to talking about those two guys here in a sec. But with everything you kind of said, what do you think should be their plan this offseason? Should it be to be aggressive to try and become a playoff team next season? Should it be to be patient? Should they try and get a little worse? I'm sure there's some fans out there that believe they should still try and tank next year because next year's draft has 3 phenomenal players at the top of the draft class. I went to the Hoop Summit, by the way, and watched DeBonsa and Cameron Boozer, and there's this Yusefu dude on the world team that really impressed me. He looks like an Anthony Edwards clone. So next year's class is really, really good. But of course, with all the positive momentum, should they take a swing in the offseason? What do you think they should do? Because being stuck kind of in that middle ground with a late lottery pick is probably the worst case scenario, right? Going into next year. This is where they're at now. It's a step in the right direction. But then if you don't progress beyond that, that's probably going to look bad. So what do you think the Blazers should do this offseason?
Well, because I think you're right. Like, if they do trade for a veteran, or even not even necessarily a veteran, let's just say, I saw a name in the chat, Zion. Like, let's just go say the Blazers go get Zion somehow, right? Like, he's still a young player you're building around. Obviously, depending on what you're giving up, like, that would be the best case scenario for me. Like, if you can add a really good youngish player, that's the way you go. I would not be looking to add like veteran pieces that are like stopgaps that are 1 or 2 year deals type of thing. Like, you're not adding a Jeremy Grant type of player, not those type of level players. Mm-hmm. It's got to be a young player that you actually can build your future with, or you just stand pat. Like, it's okay to stay pat with what you have and figure it out one more year. Hey, we're going full year of Denny Advia as our go-to guy. Like, how does this look?
Yeah.
They're still in rebuild mode where they're not ready to contend yet. So if you're not going to get a difference maker that's a young player, don't go do it. You don't want to be, because if it doesn't work, you're the Atlanta Hawks, or you're the Chicago Bulls, or you're even the Kings, right? Like, I think it's Sacramento. Mm-hmm. Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Sabonis, all really good players, all all-star caliber players, yet they're going to be stuck in the 7 to 10 seed for life.
Yeah.
And that's not where I want to be. I would rather be higher. I don't want him to tank. I don't know. I kind of off the tanking bandwagon. Mm-hmm. I do think that winning games actually matters more than I initially thought. Like, initially I thought, okay, just tank, losing culture doesn't matter. But I kind of think a winning culture matters a little bit. Like, I felt like the players got much better this season because they were winning, they were playing together. So I do kind of want them to compete and try to get that spot, but compete where you're still building for the future with young players. Don't sacrifice something for trying to get that 7 seed and actually get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the worst possible thing they could do would be to trade a bunch of assets for somebody that can't be the number 1 player on a contending team, right? And it's funny because you bring up the Kings, because the perfect example for that is a guy who's being tossed in some rumors right now and will continue to be tossed in some rumors, considering the Kings are currently down 22 points at home against the Mavericks with 7 minutes left in the third. It looks like their season's going to be over unless they pull off a miraculous comeback. So Domantas Sabonis would be the quintessential, like, pick up to try and make the playoffs but try and never contend. And he also has the name value, right? His dad played here. He'd be a fun player to bring in, a fun player to get. But unfortunately, out of this rebuild, I don't believe the Blazers have enough draft capital to make a move for a guy like that, because they won't have enough assets remaining to make much of a difference beyond what they'd have, right? They kind of be locked into their roster if they went out and traded for like a Domantas Sabonis, because he's probably going to take 3 first-round picks or something along those lines. So if you're the Blazers and you really want to make the playoffs, getting a guy like Sabonis would really help their half-court offense, which was the biggest point of struggle for them this season. So if you go out and bring him in, their offense, I think, could be a little above average next year. I think they could be, 7th, 8th seed. And he is young enough that you could argue, like, yeah, we're going to have him for 5, 6, 7 years. Like, he's going to be able to grow, or at least be on a similar enough timeline as our core where that can be our future roster. The problem is that roster is probably never going to be good enough to contend unless Shaedon Sharpe or Denny Avdia become the number one player on a contending team, become even better than Sabonis. And if that's going to happen, you might as well just let them be the number one option next year instead of bringing in somebody that's going to take up touches. So if Zion becomes available for cheap, I think it's a little different because some of his red flags might make the price a little cheaper. Although with him playing late in the season, I think he's raised his trade value to the point where it'd be kind of going all in for the Blazers. Now, if you had a bunch of picks like OKC and could swing a Sabonis trade and then still have extra first left over, that you would have the leeway in the future to go trade for an even better player, a superstar, and Sabonis becomes your number 2, I think the calculus is a lot different. I just think they don't have enough assets moving forward to make a really aggressive trade. So it's better for them to stand pat and let Denny be the number 1 priority next season, just to see how good he is as the number 1 option next year and see how much his improvement late in the season could catapult him into maybe becoming a fringe star at least.
It's almost good that, and I know this is a topic that you hate, is that Joe Cronin didn't get a lot of draft capital as assets, because now they can't trade it for like a Sabonis. Like,
see, but here's the problem though. They could still trade it for Sabonis and then have literally no tradable first left over. I could still see Cronin doing that. So yeah, I'd rather them have the leeway where Cronin didn't have to be perfect, because that's kind of what it feels like. And I want your
It's
input
a fine
on
line.
this.
He's running a fine line right now.
Yeah. Do you feel like this team has a realistic path to contention in the future, or do you feel like it's much more likely that they're on the track towards getting stuck in the middle where they're not a contender?
Oh, well, stuck in the middle. I mean, but that's for most NBA teams. Like, I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like, we all talk about in sports how the quarterback is the hardest position to get. But we started arguing, like, I think getting a superstar in the NBA might be harder than getting a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that's what everyone's missing out on, is like the guy, right? There's only like a couple of them in the NBA. What, Luka, Giannis, Jokic, SGA, yeah. Anthony Edwards, is he there yet? Like, can he really bring a team to the finals?
I mean, he almost got there last year though, and he was
Luka can, like,
yeah.
I mean, there's maybe 8, 10, like 10 if you're like if you're really being nice. There's 10 guys in the NBA that can do that. So if you're not going to have that, which the Blazers aren't, you have to build a full team around it. And so I think, yeah, like, you don't want to sacrifice and go after the number 37 in the NBA when you already have a guy like 50. So yeah. I feel like it's tough. But like, Zion would be a guy that I would debate over it, because I do think he's awesome when he plays. Like, he's Hall of Fame caliber when he plays. He's that good. But I feel like the Blazers are going to be more mediocre than ever, just in general. But that's just any NBA team, and you're gonna have to catch lightning in a bottle one year, just like when the Blazers did when they got the Western Conference Finals. Like, they weren't real contenders that year, but they kind of struck lightning, got lucky in the path, and got to the Western Conference Finals. You need one of those type of seasons, unless you have an SGA. So I don't know, man. I feel like the Blazers are in a spot, though, like you said, where it's such a fine line to get anybody, any difference maker. Like, their only real options are to let it ride out and to use a draft pick and to hopefully hopes Shaden Sharp or Denny Avdia turns into a number one option. Like those are really your only options. I don't really feel like there's going to be a ton of big swings that the Blazers can actually do. I feel like Joe Cronin has put himself in this spot, and that's what they want to do. They want to build from within, just like Neil O'Shea did. Neil O'Shea wanted to build a championship team with Dame and CJ because he drafted them. He would never want to trade those guys. That's what I was told when I worked for the Blazers.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to trade those guys because he drafted them. He wanted to do it with those guys. I feel like Joe Cronin is going to want to do it with his guys that, Shaden Sharp and Scoot and Denny Avdia.
Yeah, there's a couple funny things about that. One is like, okay, we'll trade the vets that are in the way. I do want to get it. I will have a question for you on that in a second. But number two, man, it's this season was a good step for internal development, but this season also made it even more imperative that the players on this roster develop to their ultimate potential, because you're not going to be able to add unless they get extremely lucky, whether it's moving up into the top four or drafting somebody in the late lottery that becomes a superstar, right? Like maybe you get the next SGA. I don't know. Maybe you get a Booker late in the lottery. I don't know. But basically, you're not going to be able to add a prospect in this class that you could feel confident about ever becoming a star with where they're picking. And then with the lack of future draft capital, it's going to be hard to trade for that player unless the Bucks really suck in 2028, 2029, 2030. So it almost
trade for Dame back.
I have the wildest like if you could
we'll talk about it later.
Well,
okay, we're bringing it. Let's go. Let's do it. Bring it. I'm excited.
Well, I'll finish this point and then I'll say this, like what their crazy plan A should be. But they would never do it because the whole Dame thing. Like, if I own the team, I'll tell you what my plan A would be this offseason. But to finish my point, it's almost just like it's going to be really hard to trade for a number one player down the line. And it's going to be, really hard to find that player in this draft. So it kind of just falls back on you really need Denny, you really need Sharp or Scoot to develop to their ultimate potential, which is just rough coming out of this rebuild without margin for error. I feel like that's kind of the one thing this season and what Joe Cronin has done wrong is he hasn't given himself enough margin for error where it's like it's his guys or they're probably stuck in purgatory. And it's very unlikely that players will pan out to their ultimate potential. So I'm really getting the feeling like they're going to be stuck in the same position they were with Dame, where they're good enough to maybe win a series, but not good enough to have any chance at winning 4 series.
The difference is with Dame, they didn't have any other like really good role players, where now they have like 6 good role players.
It's like the opposite, but it's the same. That's right. What I always said, though. Like, it's easier to build around a superstar than it is to go find one.
100%. No, you're right, but
yeah, they couldn't do that. So yeah,
we can't go down this because Dame should have been traded right after the bubble when his peak value. But that's just me. Okay.
Yeah.
What would you do? First, I have a question before you tell me what you would do as owner.
All right.
Out of the 3, Denny, Scoot, Shaden, who do you think has the best chance to turn into the best potential guy? Like fulfill all their potential.
I'd say Denny because I feel like he's the closest.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the live chat. I can do a chat poll. This is the fun part about live streaming, all right? So who has the highest chance of maximizing their potential? I need to get a quieter keyboard, by the way, because I kind of think Denny's might be at his peak right now, to be honest. What, like 23, 10, and 5?
Yeah.
I mean, if he could do that for a whole season, he's a star, right? Like,
right. Like, I don't think he can get much better.
I think he could get a little bit better because I feel like at times he's too unselfish for how good he is. As a scorer, like when he gets aggressive, he's really, really special. There was multiple games this year where he'd have like 23 points on 9 field goal attempts. And a lot of that's because he's getting to the line a lot, but it's like all season, man, especially with how efficient he was after that really rough start. It was just like, dude, just take more shots. Like, if you just took more shots, I feel like you could efficiently score 25 a game, like, but there's just times where he's passing the ball along so that Anthony Simons can isolate, or Shane Sharp can isolate, or run a pick and roll, like, and he just kind of plays in the flow of things. That's why I want them to make him the number one option next year, so that they kind of encourage him to be a little bit more selfish. But that's the thing with Denny. I don't know if he's at his peak, because when he started shooting more late in the season, he had some insane games, and he was still passing the ball well. His turnovers ticked up a little bit too much, but that's where it's like, I don't know what Denny's ceiling is.
Yeah, he was awesome. Like, we were texting all season, and he was probably like, December, and he's still been kind of struggling. And I'm like, is Denny the best player on this team? And you're like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, like, he's by far the best player on this team. I don't know, man. I feel like Denny, and maybe he does get better, because this was like the first season he really had the ball in his hands. I mean, that's not what he was doing in Washington. Yeah. He really wasn't doing that. So maybe it is just him getting more and more comfortable. I don't know. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I feel like Shaedon had a good year at some points, but I was most high on Shaedon, and I feel like I've lost some of my Shaedon love. Like, I feel like he's not going to turn into that guy. Like, and I don't know that Scoot is skilled enough to be that guy. So for me, my answers is probably going to be Denny, Sharp, and then Scoot. But I don't know. I don't think any of them really like turn into the caliber we would hope they turn into.
Yeah, I do feel like Scoot's being slept on a little bit too much in this conversation. From like, the chat poll has Scoot at 18%. Right now they got Sharp at 47%. They got Denny at 35%. I think Scoot works really hard, and he knows what he needs to work on too. Like, yeah. Did you hear his exit interview where he talked about what he needs to get better at? Like, I just think he's a hard worker, and he's also a smart worker, and has a good team around him that'll help him improve on what he needs to. And his second season is pretty close to like De'Aaron Fox, Darius Garland. That's what gives me hope with Scoot, but he does need to become more skilled, so it's tough to project. Whereas like Sharp, it's if he could just make threes and like improve his feel a little bit for like what shots to take, what plays to make for others, that sort of thing, then I could see him getting to stardom. It's visible with Sharp.
Isn't Shaedon Sharp best case scenario Zach LaVine? Like, isn't that his ceiling?
See, that's the thing I was wondering, is like, is Sharp going to be a star, or is he going to be like Kobe White, Anthony Simons, Zach LaVine, that type of guy? Where
Shaedon reminds me so much of Zach LaVine, because those guys make it look effortless when they play. Like, they play the exact same way. Like, Zach LaVine's a much better shooter at this point, obviously, but like the way they carry themselves and make basketball look easy. Like, basketball shouldn't be easy, but they make it look unbelievably easy. He screams Zach LaVine to me.
Yeah.
Which isn't terrible.
I think like the stuff around the rim, the finishing around the rim, Sharp took such a huge leap this year. I think that's where he has the edge. Yeah. And I think that might separate him. It's just Zach LaVine became a really good three-point shooter. So that's the thing for Sharp, is just the three-point shot, which is developable. But who knows? Some guys just never really figure it out from three. So it's like different things with all three of these guys. That's why it's a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, you're right with the finishing around the hoop. He was unreal around the hoop this season.
Yeah, because he really struggled last year for some reason. Didn't play that much, of course, but he took a massive, massive leap there. So that was good to see. But I think...
Also, I have a beef with you real quick, because you said Scoot compares favorably to like De'Aaron Fox, someone else too.
Darius Garland's second seasons, yeah.
Darius, like, can we not like compare guys like based off a year? Like, I love Lamar Hurd. I think Lamar Hurd is awesome, but he kept on saying like Tumani Kamara, you could be like Jimmy Butler. like, okay, he's gonna be a Hall of Famer, like just because he had the same type of stats
Yeah,
in year
no,
two.
I hate
Like,
when people do that when it's like Jimmy Butler, year two, averaged, 10 points per game. So, like, this guy can become that guy. I think it's different when you're talking about, like, top five picks that are clearly talented and drafted top
well,
five
Jimmy
for
Butler
a
was
reason.
the last pick of the first round, Tori.
Yeah, but that's you know what I mean? Then it's like you can draft somebody 30th and say, we got the next Jimmy Butler because Jimmy Butler was already 30th if you want to play that game. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that part. I just think it's not even to say the Scoot's going to become those guys. It's more so to put into context that we should still be patient because everybody just wanted instant results from Scoot, and then when they didn't get it, it was bust, bust, bust. And now he had, I think, a good enough year two where people were like, okay, he improved, that's good. He still has a lot of work to do, this or that. But it's like, as a starter this year, his stats were much better. His minutes got yanked around a ton. One of the biggest worries was his three-point shot, and it looked really good for the majority of the season, right? So it's like, he's going to work hard and he's going to work on the right things. So that's why I bring up a guy like Fox and Garland, their second years, is like, if Scoot compares to them similarly, and he's kind of, has some similarities to Fox as a player, I think, less to Garland. Garland's not as athletic, a little smaller, better shooter, a little more skilled. But basically the point is just like, these guys, year two, if we had Fox year two, we would probably be talking about him the same way as we're talking about Scoot right now. So it's more so just for that context of like, it could still be Scoot, because that's the thing. I feel like people have completely, we have these conversations always like Denny or Sharp, and nobody really wants to put Scoot in those conversations too. I still think there is a chance that it could be him.
All right, that's fair. No, that's fair. I just that was a beef I have.
Dude, that's a beef I have too, man. I hate that. And now people are like, they'll use the Luka trade to act like any trade they come up with is possible, because like look at what the Mavs did. They traded Luka, right? So anything is possible.
Denny
now.
Advia for Nikola Jokic.
Like if the Mavs traded Luka, then nobody is untouchable, is something I heard recently. So I agree with that.
I think for me, here's for Scoot, like it was the what we saw from Scoot in that first year was just so bad, and it came out of nowhere. Like nobody really expected it to be that bad. That we all, like a lot of people, and I think a lot of the people that don't watch the Blazers, they will always have that image in their head. So it's tough if people just think, okay, well, Scoot sucks then. But at the same time, like if you watch him every single day, it's like, no, like Scoot can actually play. That was the one thing I learned. One of the bigger things I learned this year is that Scoot's not a bust. Like he may never be even a starting caliber point guard. Like I'm okay admitting that. He probably will be. I think he is there, but I'm just saying, at minimum, he's a good sixth man. Like he will be a good sixth man in the NBA, and that's something I didn't know about last year. Like last year, I questioned if he was even that.
Yeah. Do you know his numbers when starting this year compared to off the bench? I can read them off for you here.
Give them to me.
So Scoot started 10 games this season. So it's not the biggest sample size, but there is a difference, like a pretty clear difference in performance. So as a starter, playing in 30 minutes a game, Scoot averaged 16 points and 6.5 assists, 47% from the field, almost 44% from three, 61 true shooting. And then off the bench in 26 minutes, Scoot averaged 12 points, 5 assists, 40.7% from the field, 33.5% from three, 52.5 true shooting percentage. I do think his role got yanked around too much, and I have this wonder, like, if he starts, because he showed star flashes, I think, when he started this year. Like, he had a couple really big games where it's like, see, that's the vision with him. If he starts next year, part of me feels like if he takes another step, like he did this year, because his efficiency improved a ton. I thought his defense improved a ton, and he was better ball handler, like clearly more skilled this year. If he takes another step like that last year and then also gets some consistency in his role as a starter, he could just take off and never look back.
I hope so. I hope you're right. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Scoot. I think he had a great year this year, and it's restored some confidence I have. I still do wonder if he is going to be, like, he proved he could shoot the 3-pointer, but is he going to be a guy that people still aren't going to respect that shot, so they're going to back off and make it so he has to make a 15, 18 footer more consistently? I don't know. I love Scoot. I think he has the right personality. You talk about his work ethic. You talk to anybody in the organization, like he's the guy that's always working hard, like harder than anybody. So you gotta love that. I love his attitude. I love when he's like, the dog's got to eat. Like we're hungry. The dude loves basketball. Like that's what I love about Klingon too. Like you watch Klingon play, he's always like laughing and smiling on the court because he's having so much fun. Mm-hmm. Like that's how Scoot is. Like Scoot's just having fun on the court, and so I do love that. I just the first year still worries me a little bit of how skilled is this guy going to be compared to athleticism, because I think the athleticism a little isn't as much as I thought it would be. Right? I thought he'd be better. I thought he'd be better around the rim. I thought he'd be, finishing over the top of people more, and that does worry me.
I think part of it is like at the NBA level, he's felt like he needs to be even quicker, and he ends up off balance a little bit too much on his drives, so he's not able to actually explode vertically. Like it's harder to jump high when you're not fully balanced. And he talked about, in his exit interview, he talked about like not leaning forward when he runs and moving his body is one and that sort of stuff. Like I think that matters, because I just think there's numerous times where he's missing layups or not even exploding vertically just because he's not on balance with some of his drives. And at the G League level, where he could kind of play at like 75% and still be quicker than everybody on the floor, it's just a lower level. Like he looked like he was much more on balance in a way and like able to just kind of like load up and explode. So I do hope that that's something that kind of comes back. I think part of it was maybe his athleticism was slightly oversold, but I think part of it is also he hasn't like been as vertically explosive in the league as he was in the G League.
Yeah, and he got better. Like you talking about the quickness stuff, like he got much better this year, like changing speeds and figuring out like how to get by guys. So there's definitely room to grow. I feel like when I talk about potential, it's still more like Shaden and Denny. Like I feel like they have more potential than Scoot, but we'll see, man. I hope Scoot's the man. He's cool.
Yeah, man. I think Sharp has the highest ceiling. I think Denny is the most likely to reach his ceiling, and I think Scoot is kind of a mix of the two.
I agree with you, yeah.
Is how I think they're all kind of different, but I do think... Who do you think should be the starting five next year? Like, do you think it should be the core young five? Do you think it should be Scoot, Sharp, Denny, Tamani, and Klingon? I think the way I want to phrase that question is like, if Ayton is still on the roster, do you think he should be coming off the bench for Klingon next year?
I think he should be. I don't think he will be. I think Ayton will be starting, which I don't necessarily have a problem with it. Like, it's not a big deal at this point, and I don't think Klingon would mind either.
See, go ahead.
I don't mind having Ayton on the roster next season. It doesn't bother me.
It bothers me if he's starting. See, I was of the mindset that, if Ayton starts next season, it's fine. He's on expiry, whatever, right? That's what I was thinking until recently. And recently I talked myself into having an issue with it. Recently I talked myself into having an issue with it.
Because you're negative, that's why.
But you know what? You know why? The Blazers' defensive rating with Klingon on the floor was 5 points better than with Ayton on the floor. Their offensive rating was the same. They were... In Ayton's first year here, when they didn't have Klingon, they were the worst rim protection team in the league. Opposing teams shot the best percentage at the rim against the Blazers in the league, and also shot even more shots at the rim than they did this year. This year, the Blazers were 7th best. So they went from dead last to 7th best in rim protection. And you look at, like, when Ayton was playing the most minutes early in the season, the Blazers defense was awful because his energy was really, really bad the first half of the year. And then he kind of picked it up, but then Klingon started playing a little bit more. They got Robert Williams back, and all of a sudden their defense looked completely different. And then when you look at the combination of Tamani and Klingon, when they're on the floor, the Blazers are a top 5 defense. with those two guys on the floor. Doesn't matter who else is next to him. Like, just on average, those two guys on the floor, Blazers top 5 defense this year. And it's like, starting Klingon next year is best for your future. But if you want to take the step to being a playoff team, it's also the best option for that. Because the only way the Blazers are going to be a playoff team is if they become a borderline top 5 defense. Their offense is not going to be good enough to carry them there. They were 13th in adjusted defensive rating this year. It took off late in the season. The only way they have a chance of making the playoffs is if they become a borderline elite defense, kind of like Houston did this year. Houston's close to average offensively. I think they're 4th in adjusted defensive rating, right? And they're the 2 seed in the West. I think that is the highest upside for the Blazers next season is if you start Klingon, because Ayton doesn't give you the chance to be that elite defense. His defense is not good enough. He doesn't protect the rim well enough. He doesn't defend the perimeter well, even though he's quick, right? People just think he defends the perimeter because he's quick, but like he doesn't contest shots, doesn't really slide his feet. I think part of it is an effort issue with him. So it's like why start him? Chauncey's back. You're not going to showcase him for any value. That should be obvious at this point. His value is that he's an expiring contract and a team would just acquire it as a way to make other pieces of a trade work. And so, like, what is the point in starting him? Klingon will be the more impactful player for this team next year. You can make the case that he was more impactful this season because the defense was far better with him on the floor, and he's the future. So it's just, there's no logical basis to me to start Ayton next season.
I agree with you. One, I think, though, you know this, that's just kind of not how it works in the NBA. Like, it's unfortunate, but Ayton makes so much money and he's a veteran. Like, he kind of gets thrown into the starting lineup. Also, I'm pretty sure Scoot and Ayton played pretty decently together. Like, that would be a reason why I could see Chauncey being like, yeah, let's just throw DeAndre Ayton out there because him and Scoot work well together. But I'm with you. Like, I mean, from a team building standpoint, yes, Klingon should be the guy. He's the future center because he can definitely protect the rim. Even though he's slow as anything, like, I feel like sometimes I could beat him in a race, but I'm a fat old guy too. But I feel like he's still good. Like, when he has to guard in the perimeter, like, he still can do decent. Except for at the end of the season, he was pretty bad. Like, Filipowski killed him. I mean, Filipowski killed him. I mean, there's a couple where he just like crossed him, and I'm like, dang. But no, Klingon's got to be the guy. If you have DeAndre Ayton and he's making so much money for one more season, his value is not going to change at all, and it's more of like a headache. It has a more potential headache if you bench him. Right.
Here's the thing, though.
He could be more of a headache on the bench than he would be in the starting lineup.
If you bench him and he has a problem, like, tell him not even to show up to work then. He can go sit in his Vancouver waterfront home, okay? Because he's a Vancouverite, all right? Shout out to him for that, all right? I like him more for that than anything else, okay?
Is that his best quality?
Yeah, it's his best quality. But which... the IC hill doesn't really make sense from the year before, I guess. I don't know, because it's flat down there. But if he has a problem with it, like, just send him home. You're probably going to trade him at the deadline, like, or you can just buy him out at the deadline. You know, if you still have Robert Williams on this team, which, like, you didn't trade him at the deadline when you might have been able to get something for him, and then he got hurt again. So you're probably not going to get anything back for him that you wouldn't have been able to get at the deadline.
Isn't that the reason why you can have DeAndre Ayton is because Robert Williams, if you have him, he's not going to stay healthy. We know that for a fact. Klingon got hurt as well this season. Like, he's still big. He's still growing his body. Like, he's probably going to get hurt too. Like, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, if that happens,
so many centers.
Well, if that happens, okay. So if you bring DA off the bench to start the season, he's moping and he's being weak about it, soft about it. All right, then send him home and run your 2 centers. Okay. He can stay away from the team like PJ Tucker did with the Clippers this year, and whatever, he's still going to get his freaking money.
But then
if Klingon and Robert Williams, but then if Klingon and Robert Williams get hurt, all right, Ayton, you get to start Are you happy now?
Yeah, that's gonna go well, Tori. Jeez, DeAndre Ayton, you know how bad
I
he would
think
play in that situation?
I think Ayton would love to collect a paycheck and sit at home.
I hope you're right. That would be great.
I don't know, man. Like, he gets to play video games all night and then not have to do it. I don't know. I kind of think he'd be completely okay with it. He's a weird dude, man. He's an interesting guy. So,
I think Jeremy Grant has a chance where he would be cool with coming off the bench.
Yeah, but
obviously I don't want him on
that
the team.
Contract
I've been wanting him gone since he got here. But
do you know how much cap space they'd have next offseason without Jeremy Grant's contract on the books? It's like
a lot.
It's like $85 million. With their core young five and whoever they draft this year, that's 6 core players. And you have like $85 million in cap space. Who's to say they'd sign anyone worthwhile? But it's like, at least you could take back, a Harrison Barnes type player with an asset attached and build the draft capital that you've refused to build since the Dame trade, right? So, and you could find ways to acquire salary, like good vets that actually fit your team. You just have so many options in the offseason of 2026. Like, Jeremy, that's still just the most insane move.
Do you think Klingon is a center that you can play for 30 minutes a night?
Yes. He will be.
Like night in and night out.
He had multiple games this year where he was good and played like 30 minutes.
Right, but I'm saying, you're 70, 75 games. Like, it's much easier to do that in just a small stretch. And then we saw at the end of the season he was fatigued and getting beat by Filipowski. At the end of the season he wasn't very good.
I mean, I beg to differ. I think he was very solid end of the season. I think you're stuck on Filipowski, man.
I can't get it out of my mind.
I know. You're stuck on Filipowski, but he played pretty close to 30 minutes a game in April. In March, let me just go look at his monthly splits. I'll see the exact number.
I didn't look at the stats. I just feel like the last handful of games, 5-6 games when the Blazers were actually like still going for the play-in, he wasn't like doing really anything that great. And I love him. I think he's great.
I don't know. So he was playing in April. He played 7 games, 28 minutes a game, averaged 10 points, 12 boards, 2.5 assists, and like a block and a half, and was a Basketball Reference says his offensive rating was 130 and his defensive rating was 101. Now, the offensive and defensive ratings on Basketball Reference I think are wrong. So, I don't know. I thought he was fine. I thought he was. You know what I think it was? I think he got to the point of the season where like there was a little bit of fatigue. But how do you improve your cardio and ability to play that many minutes if you never play that many minutes consistently, right? Like, you kind of get better at it by doing it.
Well,
number one.
Here's the point. Here's my point, though, Tori, is as much as I love Donovan Klingon, he may never be that guy. He may be a guy that is only a rim protector and isn't able to play 30 minutes a night.
I don't know how many.
With the way the NBA is and how everyone's going to bring you on the perimeter.
I think
think about
he's
okay.
I don't think he's as much of a problem defending the perimeter as people say. I think here. I just want to finish my thought, okay? And then I think part of it, where people, like a lot of fans start nitpicking him after the All-Star break, but I predicted that early in the season. I predicted that before the season because he had some limitations with mobility and finishing around the rim that we knew were issues coming into the league, but we had no rim protection last year, so any sort of rim protection was going to be like amazing at the start of the season, right? And there was going to be that honeymoon phase for the rookie. That honeymoon phase wore off after the All-Star break. I predicted that. I said people are going to start to nitpick Klingon because he has these problems that they'll overlook now, but it's gonna happen later in the season where it's like all of a sudden people are going to be complaining about, oh, he's not the best perimeter defender and, he needs to finish around the rim better and this and that. Whereas, like, at the start of the year, people were just appreciating that they had any sort of rim protection at all. So I think that is part of it. I truly think he defends the perimeter better than DeAndre Ayton.
I do too.
And that's the funny thing is, like, I feel like people just look at a guy that's slow and say, oh, he's slow, he can't defend the perimeter. And then look at somebody who's like Ayton, who's quicker, and say, oh, yeah, he's quicker, he's more mobile, so he can defend the perimeter. And they just base centers' ability to defend the perimeter off how quick they are. And it's almost like, all right, at the NBA draft combine, we need to have centers run 40-yard dashes, and any center with below a 5 in the 40-yard dash, that should be the first center drafted, because it's almost the only thing that people care about when a center defends the perimeter is like, is he fast or not? And they base everything off that. I think Klingon, he's not fast, but he's so long that he doesn't have to get all the way out on guys, and he can still block and contest threes. So he can give a lot more space, and that allows him the time to slide his feet or turn and try and meet that guy at the rim. There were possessions this year where it's like he was close enough to block a 3-point attempt and somebody tried to drive on him, and he just like turned around and took 2 steps and was blocking him at the rim. And it's like, yeah, it wasn't the fastest 2 steps, but he only had to take 2 steps. He can run a guy off the line and turn around and he's almost at the rim already because he's so giant. So that's something that's been a pet peeve of mine, is just like, I don't think for a rookie drop big, I actually think he was fine defending the perimeter. There were some bad moments. There were some good moments too, though. He blocked multiple threes this year from guards. So that's where it's like, if he gets a little quicker, a little lighter on his feet going into year 2, which he said he wants to do, I think he'll be fine.
I do agree. I was playing a little devil's advocate because I do think he was much better than I thought he would be on the perimeter, to be honest. And he is incredibly smart, like basketball wise, like he's always in the right position. And so like to your point, he knows how far back he needs to be when he's guarding the perimeter. But I just think big picture, like Klingon, his breed is kind of running out of the NBA. Like doesn't necessarily shoot 3, isn't necessarily that quick. I look at a guy like Rudy Gobert, who is one of the best elite rim protectors of all time, yet he still has playoff games where he can't play. Like that's just my thought. So I want to see Klingon get 30 minutes. I want to see if he can do it. I don't want him to start over, or I want him to start over DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm okay with him not doing it right now at this point in his life.
I think the problem is a drop big like that in the playoffs. You still have to have good defenders around them. I think that was the problem with Gobert in Utah was you had a couple guys that could defend, but he had to try and do too much. And in the playoffs where the pace is ramped up and guys are flying off of screens instead of just running off screens and that sort of thing, it was a little tougher for a guy like that. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's not on the big to defend the perimeter. It's on your team not to switch the big out onto the perimeter. But
that's going to happen, Tori. You know that.
I don't think that has to
happen.
Every
team does it. Every team does it.
Here's the thing with every team does it, though. Like, if we have Tumani and we have Denny and we have Scoot, who I think took huge defensive strides, like, those guys should be fighting over screens to the point where they're forcing them downhill. You shouldn't switch. You shouldn't switch. Milwaukee won a championship with Brook Lopez at center. Brook Lopez was a drop big. Brook Lopez was not good defending out on the perimeter, and they won a championship, right? I think, some things that stand out in people's minds with Gobert is like the game winner Luka hit on him, but like, why the hell is he on Luka at the end of a game? Right. It's like,
and I'm being very nitpicky at this point right now. So
I think it's good to have a quicker, more mobile backup 5 that can shoot and provide a lower rim protection so that you can get a different look on both sides of the floor, like a stretch 5 mobile type of guy. I think the guy in this draft for that, with where the Blazers are drafting, might be Rasheer Fleming, because supposedly he's 6'9" with a 7'5" wingspan and shot above 40% from 3 this year and is very mobile and 240 pounds. I don't know how much of him you watch because he was a St. Joe's guy, but like, you draft a guy like that in this draft if Knipple doesn't fall or somebody like that. You draft somebody that can be that change of pace backup 5 where if you really need to put somebody else in, you can. But I think with like Tamani and Denny being able to fight through screens, and I just think a big part of it is not putting that center in those positions, and a lot of that falls on the coaching, a lot of that falls on the players around him.
Well, if it falls on the coaching, I think you know where your answer is going to be.
Chauncey did say, that's a great segue. You ready to talk about Chauncey?
I'm a professional. Tori.
Nice. I respect it.
I get paid to do this.
Yeah. I kind of get paid. Probably,
not a lot,
probably
but I get paid.
I probably get paid a little less, man. A little less. I work a different day job, so fun day job.
Chauncey.
But yeah, Chauncey's still working the same day job for the next 3 years.
He is.
So what you brought up, like we know the answer with the coaching. Chauncey did say he wants to do more things defensively and have more tools in his toolbox. Okay, he actually. We'll get to that in a second. I just want your thoughts first on his extension. So 4 years, he wins 36 games. That's his most wins in a season. So he finally gets to 10 games below 500 in 4 years, and he earns another 3 years. So he's going to be the coach for 7 seasons. Did he deserve? This is the question, and this is based on one of your tweets. All right, this is based on one of your tweets. Did Chauncey deserve an extension? Did he make enough progress last season where it was like he earned an extension because he had a team win 36 games?
Deserve is a no. Do I understand it? Yes. I understand why he's getting the contract extension. And I don't actually hate that he's getting a contract extension, but deserve, probably not. The answer would be no. Here's my thing, Tori. We've been talking about the Blazers, and it's a rebuild. I think we all can agree Blazers are still in a rebuild. Next season, they're going to be in a rebuild. Like, they're not going to compete for the NBA title. So, at this stage, and as I said earlier, like, they're building their base. That's what they're doing. They're still at the start of the rebuild. If you're to change coaches right now and you bring in an unknown, because I hate to break it to everybody, but the Taylor Jenkins, Michael Malone, they're not coming to Portland. No chance. In the history of the Blazers, they would never get somebody like that. So you're going to have to go with an unknown. And it has worked, right? Dagna, Nick Nurse, Darko, Toronto, the Nets guy, Jordy.
Yeah.
They're all good. Is it Jordy, right? Jordy Fernandez?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. They're all good coaches. All were unknowns. It could work out. There's also a lot of unknowns that haven't worked out. And the one thing Chauncey has going for him, every single person that I've ever talked to, they say they love Chauncey Billups. Like, in the front office, in management, everybody. All the players respect him as well. You heard Scoot, the way he talked about Chauncey, like, he couldn't say that about Taylor Jenkins. He even said, I can pick Chauncey's brain on how to get better. He can't do that with Taylor Jenkins. He can't do that with Mike Budenholzer. Chauncey gets along with all the players. He has respect from them. So if you don't bring him back and you bring in a unknown who could be good, could be not, if he sucks and he gets no respect from the players, the rebuild has gone downhill so quickly. Like, we already know the Blazers haven't made a whole bunch of progress in this rebuild. Like, any progress they've made has been way worse. So to take that risk when I know what I'm going to get out of Chauncey Billups, which is a respected coach. Is he the best X's and O's? No, not even close. Is he best game manager? Not even close. But he's respected, and that, I think, is almost the most important thing in the NBA. So if you get rid of him, you're taking a risk of ruining the little progress you have in a rebuild just because you want to change the coach. So I get it from this stance of bringing Chauncey back, and I don't have a problem with it. Now, I will say this. The extension might have been a little much, but he had the 1 year team option. Like, if you just bring it back on the team option, he's not happy about it. Like, he's going to be in a bad mood. The players know, okay, well, he's probably out at the end of the season, so like he could lose respect that way. The way you bring him back and he bring in the extension, it brings solid ground to this as well.
It almost feels like we're evaluating like a peewee basketball coach here. The kids need to like their coach, or else they might quit basketball.
The Blazers are the second youngest team, Tori. They're like kids.
They're adults, man. They're grown professionals. All right, they're grown men. I don't think liking a coach is ever gonna win you a playoff series. I don't think that should be like the number one thing you say about a coach is like everybody likes him, like, okay, he should be an assistant then. Like, if Scoot wants to go pick his brain, like, okay, he should be the assistant coach of this team where Scoot can go pick his brain about how to get better, and then your head coach actually knows what they're doing with X's and O's. He feels like such an assistant coach stuck in a head coaching role, and it's like, yeah, he does some nice things, I guess, but like every positive about him, have you noticed, it's just like none of it has to do with like anything that happens in actual basketball games, right? Like,
right, but I think in theory, if you respect your coach and you have an assistant coach and you have other people that are talking to you and you get better as a coach, you can get through your players.
That's the thing, though. I don't like having a head coach.
Have you ever played, Tori? Have you ever played for a coach that you didn't respect? Because
I had a coach who chewed my ass out, and I respected him for.
Right, I have too. But I've played for a coach that I didn't respect and nobody respected. We were awful because nobody listened to him. Nobody cared.
Here's the thing,
though. I've had coaches. I've played for coaches that literally he knew nothing about basketball, but he motivated us, and we all respected him. We were all scared of him and respected it, and we were really good, even though the team sucked. So, like, I do think respectability is a key factor when it comes to coaching, especially basketball.
I just think when you're in the NBA and you're paid millions of dollars, the coaching thing does not come down to, oh, this guy can get us to try. That's the thing with Chauncey too, is like, okay, you said in theory, right? Any positive that somebody says about him, it's all like, theoretically, this can somehow help them in the course of an actual game. And it's like, okay, sure, like, maybe there's some substance to that. But it's like, when you're talking about a coach who's now signed to be here through year 5, 6, and 7,
it's a lot.
To me, it's like, you need more than just theoretically he's good because players like him, players respect him. Okay, sure, so that translates to the basketball court because they'll try a little harder. And it's just like, I don't know. It all kind of, I don't even necessarily disagree with it being important. It just also sounds silly to me.
Well, okay, let me put it this way then, Tori, because, okay, he has 3 years left, right? Like 3 years starting next year. If the Blazers are building their team, right, and we expect them to compete for the play-in next season, the next season after that, I think it was probably realistic to, like, make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs and they suck in 3 years, or they are actually building, you can evaluate and say, look, this guy can't coach X's and O's. He can motivate, which is fine, but now we need to take that next step, and then you bring in someone else. Like, I just feel like there's so much risk if you fired Chauncey Billups and you brought in an unknown that could just ruin any progress that they've had. I don't want to do that.
I think if anything, this team long term needs more upside. So it's fine to take a risk. Like, I'd rather try and get a really good coach and end up with a really bad coach than like, oh yeah, we're fine with a below average coach, That's like the difference to me. I think.
But don't you think he can get better?
I'll talk about that in a second. That's the thing with like, oh, you can hire your X's and O's coach later. I think his offense is so bad that it could potentially build bad habits with some of these young players, where even if you hire a good X's and O's coach a little later on, it's going to be tough to change those bad habits. And a lot of those bad habits is just like, yeah, somebody's gonna dribble the ball and try and ISO. Oh, they don't feel like driving against the guy. Okay, they'll kick to the next guy. He's gonna stand around, dribble and ISO, and then, oh, all right, he doesn't create anything. He's gonna go and hand it off to this guy, who's then gonna go hand it off to the next guy, and then Anthony Simons is gonna take 8 dribbles and then shoot a step back mid range jumper, and then everybody's gonna blame only Ant for that. But
Well, obviously,
yeah, but it's like, what is the offense? What is the plan? They act like they share the ball. Last year under Chauncey, they were dead last in assist percentage, okay? And people always have the misconception that it's like, oh, yeah, well, they're not a good offense. Of course, they're going to be last in assist percentage. That's not a stat dependent upon how many shots you make. It's the percentage of your made shots that were assisted. So if you're last in assist percentage, that means you had the highest percentage of field goal makes that were unassisted, which makes no sense on this team. Made no sense last year, and then this year they were 28th in assist percentage. It's like they don't share the ball. They do not share the ball, and they stand around, and they're insanely stagnant on a team that has no star on it that you should be ISOing through.
Do you think he is a good defensive coach?
I think he's a good for motivating guys defensively. I don't think he's good schematically. I don't think he's good in terms of adjustments. Yeah.
Like I don't think the Blazers are really in that bad of positions that often. Like I look at even the guys on the bench.
Yeah, they just run drop and they have good defenders.
Okay, but like even guys like Chris Murray, like he's always in the right position.
Yeah, but that's not Chauncey scheming that.
Well, why do you blame the offense on everyone just standing around and then having a guy go ISO and you say, well, you blame Anthony Simons, but then if they do it well on defense, you don't give Chauncey any credit either.
Because
so
defense is
No,
because defense is reactive, where offense you have the initiative. Offense you have the initiative. So the defense is going to be reacting to what you run. So if you're not running anything, you have the initiative, you have the control, you have the ball. Right? So that's why that's a critique offensively, where defense, it's like a lot of these guys, man, a guy like Chris, it's like, all right, you got to know where to be, and maybe he does a good job coaching up Chris on where to be, but there's other guys that have no idea where to be, so it's hard to even say that's a Chauncey thing, and not just necessarily yeah, Chris Murray's just knows where to be defensively, right? And I've seen under Chauncey really bad rotations, where guys don't seem to know where they help from, where they rotate from. This year they were better. There was improvement, but it's the biggest thing for me, honestly, is this dude all season seemed to run zone defense at the worst possible times against the worst possible teams. It was insane, where it was the worst time to go to zone, he would go to zone.
Oh, I saw your tweets.
Dude, it's they're playing against a 5-out lineup that really moves the ball well. Oh, let's go to a zone.
By the way, Matt in the chat, when you put Tori in a position to either defend Chauncey or praise Chauncey or Chris Murray. That I didn't mean to do that, but I'm glad that I did.
I mean, Chris is a solid defender. Chris is a solid defender. He's a good team defender. He knows where to be. He rotates.
He's a great. You know what? I will say this.
But what
the end of the Blazers bench? I think they have really good 14th, 15th men on the team. I really like them.
I don't like the end of the Blazers bench.
Delano Banton, Chris Murray, Justin Minaya. I think they're all great 15th men. I'm not saying they're good, Tori. I'm not saying they should ever play. I'm saying so
the reason why I don't like their 14th or 15th men is you should just be taking chances on guys that could end up being better than 14th or 15th men. Instead, they got somebody like Chris, who it's he should never be in the rotation on a good team.
No, they shouldn't. I'm not saying that they should. I'm just saying I think.
But it's why even have a 14th man that will never be in the rotation for a good team, instead of getting somebody that has a 10% chance of becoming a solid bench piece.
Because even a guy like Delano Banton, who I know he will shoot you out of games, when you're trying to lose games at the end of the season, you can throw him out there and he's going to take 20 shots because he can actually dribble. And I think that's very important. He also, he won the Blazers a couple of games this season with the way he played in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, he got hot, but he also probably lost the Blazers a couple games.
No way, because
absolutely.
He didn't play in every game. He doesn't play in every game.
There's games where he'd play 10 minutes and go 1 for 7, 1 for 8. There were games where he
there.
barely played and he would completely hijack the offense, which is funny because his nickname is DB Hooper.
I love it. I love
He
him.
would hijack.
I want him as my 14th man every season.
That's secretly why I love that nickname, is because DB Cooper hijacked a plane and DB Hooper will hijack the offense if he plays. Dude, I swear.
Either good or bad.
I might be misremembering this, but like, I'm pretty sure there was a game where Denny shot like 9 shots in 36 minutes, 9 field goal attempts, and had like 25 points. And DB Hooper, in like 8 minutes, also shot 9 shots and had like 3 points, 4 points. You know what I mean? It's like, why is this dude shooting as much in, a quarter of the time as Denny? I can't stand Delano Banton. I think his defense is bad and he's selfish and just like he's a free agent. I will be upset if they bring him back.
I don't think they'll bring him back, by the way.
Yeah, hopefully not. But like
Mandaya, like he plays hard. Chris Murray doesn't like make a ton of mistakes. He's terrible. Like he can't shoot or dribble or finish.
Dude,
but
he's like 40% from the free throw line.
But he's in the right position. He makes good cuts to the hoop. Like he'll get a key rebound. He boxes out. He does all the little things. Like those are the 15th men I want on the team. They're not going to complain.
Why though? If they're never going to help you ever win anything.
Because they're not going to cause any problems. They're like Tristan Thompson. Only young players.
But like that's a vet. I'd rather have somebody with a chance to develop into something.
That's Chris Murray's potential is Tristan Thompson at 32 years old.
Yeah.
That's a ceiling. Can he reach it?
At least he wasn't a 4th overall pick. But I think part of it for me, man, is like I've had this is going to sound maybe cocky, but
ooh, yes.
I think I've had a pretty good track record of identifying like undrafted players that have a chance of becoming something special.
Here comes the Austin Reeves, Tumani Kamara.
Najee Marshall was one of the guys I really liked.
Najee. It's the big 3. Austin Reeves, Najee, Tumani.
Nas Reed. Lou Dort.
Right. Him too.
Although Lou Dort was like, people thought he was going to be a late 1st round pick and he went undrafted for some reason in that draft. But like,
yeah, because he went like 6'1".
Yeah, but it was like, why is he undrafted? He should be picked. I was begging for the Blazers to pick him up on a 2-way. And it's like all these guys, and then watching them all become something. It's like, all right, let's just take a chance on that. And because if you can get a player like that and they become a, Najee Marshall type guy, that's a really good asset, Like, I'd rather take a chance on that than just like, yeah, we're just going to have this 6'7" guy that's not athletic shoot 40% from the free throw line and 24% from 3. But, like, it's okay because he does little things well.
He makes good cuts.
Also, a big part of the reason a big part of my issue is I'm so tired of Cedar Rapids.
Yeah. The Blazer broadcasting in general is really good. Like I like Calabro. I like Brooks awesome. Lamar is really good. Like I think Lamar could be a national guy if he really wanted to be. But sometimes they push things, man, and it's not great.
Which do you dislike more, the Cedar Rapids or the Big Daddy thing?
Dude, I love Big Daddy. Get off there. I need Dwop Reith on the Blazers for life.
Dude, I swear, like, everybody younger than me hates the Big Daddy reference, and everybody older than me loves it.
Well, us old people are Big Daddies already, so... I will say, every time he plays, he gets the ball, I'm like, Big Daddy! And my son, Lincoln, he's 10, he's like, stop, dude, it's so annoying.
I know, yeah. Oh, that's funny. But, dude, the way he says it sometimes, though, is almost, like, seductive. It's like, why?
Big Daddy.
Yeah, he'll literally say it like that, dude. It makes me so
goes a little crazy on it, man. It's out of pocket, bro.
Yeah, but you know what drives me crazy is like when the Blazers fired Mike and Mike, they wanted to become more professional of a broadcast. So they brought in Lamar, they brought in Calabro, who I think sound a little more professional. And then they start doing this crap and calling Dwop Reith Big Daddy and doing the Cedar Rapids thing. It's like, this should be some Mike and Mike stuff. If we're going to be doing this, we might as well have just kept Mike and Mike, even though Mike Rice probably would sound like Bill Walton, rest in peace to the legend, but like Bill Walton on the broadcast going off on random tangents. Like, if we're going to be calling people Big Daddy, if we're going to be referencing Cedar Rapids, just, you might as well bring those two back. Right?
Yeah, dude. But that's the thing is, like, some people didn't like Bill Walton. Like, I love Bill Walton and his tangents he goes on. So I'm all for that.
But at least he was like,
dude,
he had stories
Mike
and would
Rice
actually
is
go on
legend,
tangents.
though.
See, like, at least it wasn't the same story 3 times a game. The same Cedar Rapids crap. Like,
Yeah.
Send him to Sacramento. They need a piece. They just lost in the play-in by 14. They need a piece to help them get over the hump. So reunite the Murray brothers, and we'll get Sabonis, I guess.
I think I would stop being a Blazer fan if they traded for Keegan Murray. And you had the Twins.
Oh, God. I hated that pick, dude. I just don't like the Murrays. I hated that pick when they drafted him.
Mike Rice is the legend, though, Tori. Back in the day, he got kicked out of the game, right?
Yeah.
Legend.
Absolute legend. But
he also was instrumental in trading Sebastian Telfair to the Celtics with the Brandon Roy deal.
What?
You don't know that?
No.
Yeah. They asked him because I think Danny Ainge was a part of the Celtics like management at that point, and he trusted Mike Rice, and so they were talking about Telfair, and Mike Rice talked up Sebastian Telfair like he was going to be just like the next big thing.
Yeah.
And so then the Celtics pulled the trigger and traded for him.
I never heard of that. But yeah, no more Cedar Rapids, no more. Like, it's sad that I won't want Duop Reith off the team just so I can stop hearing that. You know what I mean? Like,
I get it.
I love his story. I want him. He should go be a 3rd string center somewhere else instead of like our 5th string center next year, because for some reason we have a bunch of centers now. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Play
wise again, he's another great 15th man. Like, he's a good 4th center on the team. He can come in and hit some shots. He's fun.
He's a 3-point specialist who's like a 35% 3-point shooter. His defense is. I sometimes I'd rather have you in there defensively than him at the center spot.
Yo.
Because at least you'd body someone.
I would body, dude. I'll body.
Trust me, I know. I think I still have scars from our 1-on-1, but yeah. Back to Chauncey though. Like,
yeah.
What does he do well schematically on that side of the floor? Like,
offensively, not much. They at least made the decision to like let Denny be the main ball handler, like middle of the season. Like, I think.
Yeah, but it's like his good schematical decisions are like Denny gets ball now.
Right, but like, you're just asking me some positive things about him, and those are my.
But I just mean in terms of like X's and O's, where it's like, oh, that's a good thing to run. The thing is, I feel like I don't even have a high bar there. It's just like, why don't we ever set a back screen for Shaden Sharp when he's the most athletic guy in the league? Why don't we run Shaden Sharp off of any curls when he looks really good? The one time out of 2 games he comes off a curl, like just stuff like that. It's like such easy stuff to run, and you just don't even do it.
I do feel like that's where, being a former player, Chauncey gets stuck in it a little bit, because think back to his era. His era was so much ISO 1-on-1. And so now, like, that whole group has graduated to being, okay, pick and roll every time, right? Like 1-on-1 or pick and roll. Like, they're not going to run off ball screens. They're not going to do any of that stuff. They still want to be like, I mean, remember when Chauncey first started, it was like they wanted to get the ball inside and shoot like 2-pointers, like mid-range shot. Like, they were talking about that. Like, that's the key. It's like, okay, well, that's not what you do anymore. And so I do think, like, I'm trying to take baby steps with him. Like, I know he's not great, but like, he at least is like, okay, Anthony Simons, you're not the guy anymore. Like, let's give it to Denny, let him be the guy. And it worked better. So I think he does get in his own way just because he is one of the forward players. And that's where you can go after, as we talked about, an unknown, a guy who didn't have any playing experience, and he can draw up some plays and it might actually work. But then at the same time, players may not respect him. It's that fine line, man.
I hate that it's like professional sports. This coach deserves a 7-year tenure. Well, you didn't say deserve, but like, this coach gets a 7-year tenure because people like him. I
know. Like, it's stupid.
Like, if Here's the thing that I have a problem with when I argue with people about Chauncey is like, okay, if you think they should keep him as a coach for those reasons, fine. I won't even really argue with that. It's all the people that are just like, you're an idiot because he look how much better they are and he has respect and like, how could you criticize him, because of all this stuff. And it's like, dude, you can't sit here and call me an idiot if you're not even willing to talk about anything in the game then. Like, that's the problem I have with people is like, all right, I'll ask these people, I'm like, all right, what does he do? What does he do well schematically since you think he's such a great coach? What does he do well in terms of X's and O's? They never have an answer. Like, what does he do well during the actual game? Never have an answer. And it's like, okay, you might think that he deserves to come back and the Blazers can't do much better. And honestly, like, I can see that line of reasoning. I could see them having an even worse hire with this ownership group. So I fully get that.
Right.
It's just like other.
And that's what I didn't even mention is if they ever wanting the new coach, Bert Cole's doing the hiring. So
God. But like, it's like we're evaluating the coach. We're not evaluating the coach based off stuff that happens like in the actual basketball game. So
right,
it's it's funny for a lot of you. Yeah, it's just funny for a lot of people how like that's not even part of it. It's like, did they win this game that they maybe shouldn't have? Yes, okay, he did a good job coaching, right? Like it's box score watching, and all right, did this team win more games than they were projected to? Yes, okay, good coaching. It's all that sort of stuff that. Oh, this player said he really likes him. That's how people base coaches. And it's like, yeah, sure, that stuff matters. But it's also what you do during a game, especially in the playoffs. Like, for a rebuilding team, that's one thing. But it's what really bothered me about the extension. And I do have hope for Chauncey. I'll get into that last on this topic. But what really bothered me is like, okay, this organization, I feel like they're overreacting a little bit to the second half of the season in going 23-18, like we talked about at the start of the show. Like, I think they're overreacting a little bit. They're acting like they achieved something big, kind of, which drove me crazy.
And 100% they are, yes.
So it's like, okay, you really think you're a playoff team now? You should not be giving Chauncey an extension then, because you're going to need a better X's and O's coach in order to actually beat good teams and well-coached teams. You're going to need to get more creative offensively. Like, your offense is not creative enough, where if you go against a good team that's ready to defend the way you run things offensively, like, you're going to get shut down. And we see that all the time. Even against a team like OKC who sits 5 starters to the point where it gets investigated by the league, we still lose by 18 because they're well-coached and our offense is kind of a joke. Like, that sort of stuff. So it's like, all right, if you really think you're ready to make that step, why aren't you trying to hire a coach that would actually maybe help you take that next step? Like, why are you settling then for somebody that I think Chauncey, unless he improves, would really, really struggle in a playoff series?
100% fair. No, there's really not much arguing. The only argument would be is that sports is such a results-driven business, like all sports. So, like, for them, they're gonna hang on to that record the second half of the season, and then people are gonna say, "Well, that's Chauncey Billups. Like, he had to do something, right? Like, it wasn't just the players, it wasn't the schedule, it wasn't getting lucky, it wasn't back-to-backs, it was Chauncey. Like, he's gonna get some credit." So, sports is that's how sports is though. So it's just hard, but I feel like he deserves some credit, but at the same time, like, I can say I understand why he gets the extension. I don't think he deserved the extension, but I understand it, and I do think it's not the worst thing ever, because I think there could be much worse. It could be much worse if the Blazers actually went and tried to hire somebody else.
Yeah. Now, did you hear Chauncey's comments about what he needs to improve on?
I did, yes, and I know that you were very excited about it.
Well, he literally, like...
Maybe is he in the chat right now?
Chauncey, I don't know, man.
Chat,
it was like, it
yourself.
was one of those things where I heard him say that, and it's like, dude, it's almost like he's been watching our streams and listening to our critiques. It was, to a T, like, every little thing we critiqued him on the most this season, right? Like, the half-court offense where player movement, off-ball movement is a big issue. And you talked about it where, like, yeah, he played in an older era, which was a lot more stagnant pick and roll based. Pick and roll still a big thing, but off ball movement with as much space as you have now with all this shooting is something that can be really successful in the half court, and he doesn't do enough of that. When you brought that up, it made me think of like Jason Kidd when he started was really, really bad, and then he got better. Now, part of the reason he got better was like you have Luka, who you could just you had Luka and Kyrie, you could just put the ball in their hands and they'd make things happen. So you still kind of need those guys, and you need to be able to do that still. But like we've seen some coaches take some time to improve. Okay, so all right, some coaches have improved, but the thing is like it's always going to a different spot. So I don't know about Chauncey. But him saying in the half court, like our body movement, our player movement was not good enough. Sometimes we'd move the ball well, but like we wouldn't move players well enough. So I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to sit down and study and that sort of thing. Like that's the best thing I could have heard, because I think that's the biggest problem holding back this team is they don't know how to play offense in the half court. And it's not like they don't have talent, and they also have a lot of athletes. So it's like, get these guys moving in space. You have athletes that attack the rim, like make it a little easier for them. He said he needs to get players in better spots where they can be successul. And I immediately thought of like, okay, that would be like running Shaden Sharp off more curl screens, or, you know, like run and scoot off the ball where he's not just standing in the corner. Like he's quick, so get him moving. That's what came to my head. So it's like step one to improving is realizing what you need to improve on. Okay, hearing him say that was encouraging. Step two is like, okay, have a plan of action for how you're actually going to get better at something if you know what you need to get better at. And he laid out his plan of action. So it's like, you know what, man? I respect somebody that wants to be the best at what they do. I respect somebody that wants to get better. And I respect somebody that like has a plan for how they're going to get better. So hearing that was like, that's my type of stuff. Like all right, cool. That's the first step. Now we have to wait until next season and see if you actually did it. Because if you didn't, then it's like, I have no hope. But I do have some hope that, all right, he has a plan. He knows what he needs to get better at, which at this point with him getting an extension, like that's all I can hope for.
Yeah, no, you have to hope that. It's the same thing like this whole week on the BFT. We've been talking about Dan Laney, because Dan Laney is saying the same thing about when they lost to Ohio State, how it eats him every single night. Like he can't not think about it. And it's the same thing with Chauncey. It at least bothers him. Mm-hmm. Like he seems like he cares. Now, yeah, Chauncey has always kind of said the right thing. I always think Chauncey's really good in front of the microphone. Yeah, like he's very engaging, very captivating. Mm-hmm. So it remains to be seen if he actually executes it. But for now, he's saying the right things, and I think that's all you can take away. Now, he's gonna have to show some improvement, because if they don't, the Blazers aren't going to be a play-in team, and then we're really going to criticize him. So,
yeah, 100%. That's why next season is going to be fascinating, of course, with the higher.
It's fun. Like it's going to be a fun season, though. Like I'm excited about it.
Yeah, but also
because there's actual expectations.
Yeah, there's like so many different things to watch with like Chauncey doesn't improve in that way, and then of course like Denny, does he have another slow start to the season like he's had the past couple of years, or does he actually build off his play late in the season? You know, like the starting lineup, I think, is going to be a big point of contention, right? And then who knows who the Blazers bring in, how they fit. Like, I am more excited for next season than I have been for any season in years. So it's actually nice to be looking ahead to a season. But first, we gotta deal with the whole off season.
Well, how close do you think they are? Like, look at the play. The Kings just got absolutely whooped.
How close to the play-in or the playoffs?
Let's just say the play-in. Because you talked about San Antonio going to get better. You think New Orleans could get better. The Kings just got whooped. Memphis, like, what are they going to be? Golden State, a year older, but they still have a bunch of guys. Like, I think that the Blazers should compete for the play-in, but even if they get better, they still might be 11 or 12.
I fully agree. I think it's kind of like 50-50. Whether they make the play-in or not, and that's 9-10 play-in. I don't think they're going to be a top 8 team next year.
No.
I don't. They have to make up 12 games. And People are like, oh, they won 15 more games this year. Imagine if they win 15 more games next year. Guess what? It's a lot easier to go from 21 wins to 36 wins than it is to go from like 36 to even 46 wins.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
So it's like, it's
much easier to get out of the basement than it is to like take that next step.
Exactly. I mean, look how many more games the Cavs won this year. I don't even know if it's possible for them to win that many more next season because they only have 82 games to win. So, it's easier to take that step from being terrible to being mediocre than it is going from mediocre to good, and you have to be really good just to get in the top 8. Like, you're talking about teams that won 48 games or the 8th seed. So, are the Blazers going to be a 48-win team next year?
No. If they're in the East, they could make the playoffs.
I do think the only chance they have at being a top 8 team next year is if they start Scoot, Sharp, Denny, Kamara, Klingon, and that lineup becomes like the 5th best defense and then can become average offensively. Like Chauncey improves half-court offense, and that is like almost the same statistical profile this year as the Houston Rockets.
And that's what they should do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I would guess that's not what they're going to do, but the opening night, day one, that should be the starting lineup.
Yeah.
Should be.
Dude, if we have Grant and Ayton in the starting lineup, man, I might have to retire.
So for what it's worth, I was texted like a couple weeks ago. It was when they really started tanking and like Anthony Simon started missing all the games. Mm-hmm. And my guy said, he goes, Jeremy Grant will never play for the Blazers again.
How can anybody be so sure that Grant is not going to play for the team again? Unless they already have something agreed to in principle.
I don't know, dude. I just said, I hope so. I said, I hope you're right.
His contract's a negative asset, right? We can all agree.
Yeah.
Why Cronin did not trade him last offseason is beyond me, when he probably could have gotten a first back from the Lakers. Remember, it was like, he wants 2 firsts back, and the Lakers...
I don't think that they could have gotten a first for Jeremy Grant, I'll be honest.
I don't know. Like, what it sounded like was Lakers were willing to give up a first, and Cronin wanted 2 firsts.
And if that's true, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
That's the thing that sucks, is like, we'll never know if that's true or not. But it's like, here's where I'm at. It's like, last offseason, if you couldn't trade him at all, then wow, that re-signing is really, really bad. If you could trade him for a first-round pick last offseason, then re-signing him was actually good, and not trading him last offseason was really, really, really bad. Either way, he screwed up. Signing. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the thing is, I believe they could have gotten some value from him last offseason, so I don't even think the signing is that bad, but it's like, the bad part is you signed him to that contract, and then you tried to get too much value, and now you're stuck with him. And I was the guy people always told me, you can hang on to him, right? Like, his value's not going to go down. And I was just like, why do you think there's no chance his value could go down? He could play worse next season. He's past the age of 30. So why can't he play worse? And look what happened. He played much, much worse. Chauncey apparently told him to stop shooting as many mid-range shots based on exit interviews, and Grant wasn't comfortable not being able to shoot a bunch of mid-range shots to find a rhythm, it seemed like, and he seemed like he was unhappy this year. I know people in chat keep saying Mike Richmond over at Locked On Blazers has said all year that, like, Jeremy Grant's unhappy with his role and unhappy with his situation. It's like, why are you paying this dude $32 million a year? Like, it's just so silly. It's just, you should have got rid of him. But if they have him going, I don't think they'll be able to trade him. Like, what team is going to want him on that contract?
I think any contract is tradable.
Yeah, but like, what team is going to not view him as a negative?
Just a horrible team that knows they suck.
Yeah, but it's like, they don't want to pay $32 million to a guy like that.
Like, I mean, you're gonna have to give up an asset to get rid of it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is like, they're not going to do that,
Grant,
right?
And Chris Murray, DeAndre Ayton for Giannis. Send it in.
Well, I don't think the Blazers will ever attach an asset to get rid of his contract because that would look really, really bad. And we know this organization cares about the way they look.
And it also doesn't really make sense to do that either because they're not competing for a play-in spot or a playoff spot, really.
I think the only way it makes sense.
If they were close, then yeah. But like when you're rebuilding, you can't get rid of any assets.
I think the only way it would make sense is like if you give away the worst of 2029 first between Boston, Milwaukee, Portland, that's probably going to be a low pick, all right? Like, I think that's the best case scenario. And then you gain a lot of, let's say you get an expiring somehow. I don't know where from, but let's say you do. Next offseason, you have so much cap space that, like, can you recoup the value you attach to get rid of them next offseason? Like, that's the only way you could do it and justify it. I just don't think the organization would risk, like, having to bank on using cap space to recoup value. And then the downside is they look really, really dumb for signing him to that contract and then attaching an asset to get rid of him. But I will say there is the narrative out there that it's all Dame's fault that he got that contract. Have you heard that?
Yes, I have heard that.
That's the dumbest narrative I've ever heard.
Well, you're gonna think anything that criticizes Dame is the dumbest.
Well, do you believe that narrative?
No, I don't.
It's
I believe the narrative that Jeremy Grant said, "Hey, Blazers, if you trade for me, you better sign me to this deal," and then they're like, "Okay, we're gonna sign you to this deal." It's not Dame though.
Yeah. I don't know.
But they're buddies. Did you know they played the Olympic team together?
Yeah, no, I know they were buddies. I mean, like, that's the thing is 2 months before Grant got traded here, we were talking about how they're buddies and, like, Dame's going to get Grant to come here, and it's, like, basically a done deal. So, yeah. I don't know. I feel like we're talking about Dame a lot. There's always people in chat. Why are you even mentioning Dame? Move on. We always get those people, so
I'm with them. Let's move on.
That's the thing though, is like we had somebody bring up that narrative, so we talked about this. So he's like, "Why are you talking about Dame so much?" It's like because people are blaming him for the contract Cronin gave Grant. It's like once the narrative of cleaning up Olshay's mess didn't work anymore, then it's like, oh well, this mess is Dame's fault instead. You know, it's always somebody else. It's always somebody else. But I will say this. Let's touch upon his extension really quick. Then we can quickly compare to playing teams, like maybe 10, 15 more minutes here.
Yeah.
If you're good for that. So Cronin's extension I did not like, but I don't think it's like primarily for the reason that you would assume. I thought this offseason was going to be the perfect litmus test for the thing he struggles at the most, which is selling players, especially veterans, right? You just go down the list of, like, you got nothing back for Norm. Norm looks like a freaking all-star this year, okay? Nothing back for Rocco. I mean, he was kind of washing out of the league at that point, so whatever. I don't hold that against him. But, like, what do you get back for Josh Hart? A dude that shoots 24% from 3 and 40% from the free throw line. Now, the late first-round pick, I don't think was the worst trade. It's just they didn't execute that pick. And I said it 2 seconds after they took that pick. Like, took Christmas there. It's just bad pick. So you didn't execute that. They gave away Nickeil Alexander-Walker for nothing. Remember? That deadline, they got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They give him away for Joe Ingles, who never played a game. Like, why didn't you just keep Alexander-Walker? And then you look at, like, their inability to sell Simons before now. You look at their inability to sell Jeremy Grant before now. Like, I think that's the biggest question for Cronin. It's like, do you know how to trade players away? Do you know how to sell players? And this offseason, after how good this young core looked, and we talked about, like, this 5-man young core should be the starting lineup going into next year. This is the offseason to finally just sell your veteran pieces. And it's to the point where it's like, if you get back a very crappy first for Anthony Simons, nobody's going to have an issue with it. Like, other than maybe Eric. But but like people will be fine with it because they just want to embrace the young core, right? It's like, you don't even have to – you can get back pennies on the dollar. Just clear the way for the young core, and nobody's going to complain that much. So it's like, this was the perfect offseason where it's finally time to trade these guys. It's finally time to cash in for any value you can get. And he has a challenge trying to offload Jeremy Grant. And it's like, if he did a good job this offseason, he made a good trade for Denny last year. I loved the trade at the time. I loved getting Kamara out of the Ayton trade, right? Like, he's done some nice things in terms of acquiring young pieces for this core. If he then proved that he could have a good offseason selling pieces and then they wanted to extend him, it's like, okay, I'm not thrilled about it, but I'd be fine with it. I just don't like that they did it before his ultimate litmus test, which is this offseason. Like, they didn't even want to see, but that's this ownership group. So,
yeah, I mean, that's what separates like good GMs from great GMs. Is the great ones know exactly when to trade off a guy when their value's at their peak, right? I mean, think about OKC and how they traded all those guys and get value back for him. And Joe Cronin did not do that with a couple of his players like Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant. I mean, I would always argue that Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons' value was never that high anyways. But that's just a different argument. So I'm with you. Like, he has not proven that he can make the trades at the right time, but I know that you don't like to give him credit for getting Toumani Camara because they passed on him twice, but that you have to ask yourself, that's a good deal.
He fixed his mistake.
He did. But everybody passed on Toumani Camara. So that doesn't mean everybody sucks.
Yeah, but it's also like, okay, if you knew he was going to be so great, because that's what people credit him with. Like, he knew Toumani was a really good piece, so he traded for him. Okay, if you knew he was going to be that great, why didn't you draft him with the 43rd freaking pick?
So, correct me if I'm wrong. Toumani played Summer League for the Suns.
He played Summer League, yes.
How much, and
he played good in Summer League. Yeah, he played good in Summer League, but it's also Summer League.
Right.
Who won co-MVP with Dame in 2012 in Summer League? Wasn't it like Josh Selby? Yeah, it's Summer League. So, I mean, I guess you can see some things that are like, yeah, that's going to translate to the NBA game.
Look, I mean, that's I know you don't want to give him credit for that, but you have to give him
I give him some credit. I don't give him as much credit as people want, because it's like, you also could have just not made that a requirement for trading a superstar. You could have just drafted him 43rd. So that's why I won't give him full credit. I'll give him some credit, but not full credit.
Do you buy this, that Cronin, the real deal with the Suns is Cronin won Toumani Camara and DeAndre Ayton was just salary filler? Like, Camara was the main piece.
I think he wanted Ayton because I think that he thought Ayton in a new situation could be good enough to help them be surprisingly good last year.
And I don't know the answer. I was more asking, what do you think? I was told that Kamara was the main reason why they wanted to do the deal. I don't know if I believe it, but
it's just like it could have been so much.
It sounds so stupid. It sounds so dumb.
They've done some nice things acquiring young players, but like, they've overcomplicated the rebuild in a way that doesn't make sense. Like, you got Ayton's contract on the roster because you didn't draft Kamara 43rd, but then, like, obviously he was worth trading for literally like 3 months later before he even started his career. And then you re-sign Jeremy Grant, and then you draft guards back-to-back years, and you still have Anthony Simons. It's just like, what?
But
why are we overcomplicating
thing now is like,
it?
When I evaluate Joe Cronin, it's like, yes, I would love to not have DeAndre Ayton on the team, but I also will take DeAndre Ayton's contract on the team as long as Toumani Camara is on the team.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, like, that's a good deal. Like, the Blazers got a good young piece out of it.
I feel like for sure, but it's like, that was the staple of trading a dude that just averaged 32 and 8. You know what I mean? Like, here's the thing I have a problem with. People act like Cronin is an amazing GM because, look, he got Denny and he got Toumani, but it's like, dude, you should be able to get a couple of good players out of trading somebody that averaged 32 and 8. Like, that should be the bare minimum, not something that's like, we're singing his praises and asking for his autograph at FanFest and stuff.
Legend.
So, it's like, yeah, I'll give him credit for those moves. I really liked the Denny trade when it happened. And even 10 games into the season when everybody was questioning it, I was sitting here saying, like, just give Denny some time.
I feel like we were like two of the only people that were doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, like, he's clearly talented. He's clearly adjusting to a new situation, Torrey Jones, Mr. Negative, is being patient, right? I've been patient with Scoot. I've been patient with Denny. So people still say I'm negative about everything.
Well,
But
I mean, I think you're right. With Cronin's point, this is a big one, right? Like that's always that should be the tagline for the Blazers. Like, this is the year. Like, this is next year. But like, this truly is. Like, if he can't unload Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant, and next season they're starting one of the three between. Well, I guess it would be two. If they're starting two of the three, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, that's fireable in my mind.
Because you'd still end up bringing one of Scoot, Sharp, Tamani off the bench for one of those guys.
The only one I think that I would be okay with, and I don't agree with it, is DeAndre Ayton. If Ayton's a starter day one, I could be like, okay, I understand.
Yeah, because it's more justifiable to still bring Klingon off the bench than it is to bring Scoot, Sharp, Denny, or Tamani off the bench.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy that Denny is clearly our best player this season, but there was a part of the season where he was coming off the bench for somebody who was clearly our worst high minutes player this season. Like, that's how backwards things have been at times.
That's Chauncey Billups' motivation.
Something like that.
Tori.
Something like that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the offseason because it's like, I'm fascinated to see if he figures it out. I'm fascinated to see how he answers some of these questions. And it's like, if they do absolutely nothing again, like they didn't do anything at the deadline. Only thing they did last offseason was draft Klingon and trade for Denny. Like, it's starting to feel Olshey-ish, where you're just doing absolutely nothing.
It's been that Olshey-ish for a while.
Yeah. So it's like this is his chance. This is his chance. If he finds a way to like really embrace that young core and like move some vets and get anything back of value, I'm sitting here like I'm happy with the job that he did at this deadline, and I'm happy with Tamani and their core, Denny, Klingon. So I feel like encouraged going.
I feel like
forward.
the Blazer Upriseites, that follow you, and your cult,
the Uprising. The Uprising. Don't get us confused for the cronies. All right, that's the other cult. We're the Uprising. The Uprising and the cronies were at war.
The Uprisings. You guys have been done with Cronin, and you guys think that I probably defend Chauncey and Cronin too much. But I will say, if Cronin doesn't get it done this offseason, I'm with you. I'm an upriser. I'll be uprising with you guys.
We'll the secret tattoo. We'll pay for it.
Save me a spot.
Yeah, we'll pay for the secret tattoo.
Because they have to. He has to. Minimum, they have to trade Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons. They cannot start on this roster next season.
Yeah. The Jeremy Grant thing is the biggest thing, dude. I don't see
Jeremy Grant for sure.
But if you still have him, you can't start him. So you paid a dude $32 million a year to come off the bench in a rebuild. Like 2 years later,
DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant, a combined $60 million to come off the bench?
It's even more. It's like 67 next year or something.
70 million.
That. Yeah.
You might as well just throw Anthony Simons there too. Make it $100 million.
Dude, me and Eric were talking about that. Yeah. It's insane. Why? It's wild. So it's like, I don't know. Let's finish. Let's get to this conversation.
Yeah.
This is how we stream for 2 hours, man. It's very easy, actually.
Everyone's just. This is what me and Tori text about every time.
Yeah.
Now I was just talking for him.
Yeah. So playing comparisons. Are the Blazers in a better position than the teams that are in the play-in? So we're gonna go through one by one, and we'll quickly touch upon these play-in teams. Okay. Do you want to start in the East or the West?
Yeah, let's start in the East. Okay, let's just go with the team that lost tonight, the Bulls, 10 seed. Like, would you rather be in the Bulls situation currently or the Blazers current situation?
Probably the Blazers, and part of that is because the Bulls have absolutely no direction, and they're kind of a joke.
I agree because their unknown is Buzelis. I like Josh Giddey. I think he's actually a decent little player.
Kobe White's their Simons, right?
Right.
And they have Buzelis looked really good this year. They're just like 2 years behind the Blazers, it feels like, where they need to trade Vucevic. They need to probably trade Kobe White, I don't know what his contract situation is, but like if he's a
But
free
like
agent,
you
keep him
said,
to
Kobe
trade him
White's like
later.
Anthony Simons. Like the Bulls are still in the stage of like, oh, we can build with Kobe White.
Yeah, like they're worse
Just
than
like
the
the Blazers
Blazers
were.
if they were in the West.
Right. And I'd rather have Denny over Josh Giddey, so I think Blazers pretty easily.
Yeah. Now, like draft. See, with these teams, you have to look at draft capital. I feel like too. I mean, they just kind of have their own picks and then the pick from Portland. So, I think the draft capital is pretty even. So yeah, I'd take Portland over Chicago.
All right. They played who'd they lose to today? The Heat.
Yeah.
The Heat or the Blazers?
I mean, the tough thing with the Heat is like they can always sign a free agent. I think if you took like let's just say take that out of the equation, right?
No, you can't. That's part of it.
I mean, then it's like any big market going to say they are better because they're
Gonna
a big
get
market,
Giannis,
right?
Okay,
but
we'll take that out.
But
We'll take that out.
I just think in terms of like where their roster's at in their draft capital going forward, is kind of the way I'm looking at it. Like, I mean, Bam is better than anyone on the Blazers. Tyler Hero right now is probably better than anyone on the Blazers. He was really good this year. They have the
Spoelstra's much better coach.
Spoelstra's better coach. They have the Warriors pick this year. I
think it's the Heat.
But it's just like how would these assets ever get them to contention? Like I don't think they have as much upside going forward as Portland does with like Portland's picks from Milwaukee and Portland's young players. And if you're stuck in the play and it's like you need upside to actually make enough improvement to contend. So I'd probably take the Blazers still, actually.
Yeah, you are right, because there is a weird thing of like, why are the Heat not better?
Yeah.
But it's like Bam and Tyler Hero, man. It's not terrible.
I will say Khalil Ware is the X factor there.
Yeah.
Because
he's got flashes, man.
But like Jaime Hawkins looked really good last year and then was awful this year.
Terrible. He's sleeping with Spoelstra's wife, right?
Well, yeah. Then he was sleeping.
Oh, that was
sleeping
false.
while playing
for
false. Him. That's funny rumor. Yeah, I think like if Khalil Ware can take a big step next year, which I think he could like break out next year, he's pretty talented. Then I'd probably go Miami. So he's kind of the X factor. It's pretty close.
I want to see Tyler Hero in this role for a whole season, like as the main guy.
Yeah.
I take Miami just barely though.
Got you. Atlanta.
Oh, God. I think I would take Portland. Like
Atlanta
what does Atlanta have going for it? Besides, I mean, Reese Shea is a good role player. Like he's not special. I don't think
he was really good at the end of the season, though. I never really believed in him
as a slasher and a shooter.
Yeah, but he might.
He's not a ball handler.
He might be like 6'8" Clay, like maybe not to that level, but like that type of guy because he's good defensively, could be great defensively, and the way he moves off the ball and like shoots the ball, you know.
Yeah, I mean Johnson, if he's healthy, he's great.
He could be a star if he's healthy next year. I think he might make like
Dyson Daniels is fun, but like he has a lot of offensive limitations.
Yeah, he's kind of like their Tamani. They have a lot of picks, but like they don't have their own pick in a couple of years, so it's weird. I think that,
and then it's the whole Trae Young situation. Like, what are you doing with that?
But like, if they trade Trae Young and get back more draft capital to build around like Jalen Johnson, Reese Shea, Daniels, I kind of feel like they might be in a better position than Portland going forward.
It honestly kind of sucks that this draft was the Reese Shea draft and not like a really good player for the first pick, because a really good player going to the Hawks and then you get rid of Trae Young and you combine that with Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels and Okongwu. Like that's not a terrible like five.
Could you imagine Dyson Daniels, Cooper Flagg, Jalen Johnson?
That's what I'm saying. Like if they had gotten this pick like that and then Okongwu, like. That's like that would be crazy.
At least they finally started starting Okongwu. It took them long enough.
Yeah, Capella.
Yeah,
but I would take Portland. I think Portland has a better upside than Atlanta.
I would take it. I would take Atlanta. I think they can trade Trae and the assets they'd have with that young core, and then like they could probably be bad enough to get a good pick next year, and I think they would be set for the future.
I think I'm a little lower on a Reese Shea Dyson Daniels offensively, I think struggles.
I love Jalen Johnson.
I do
Like
too.
I would maybe rather have him than like anybody on this roster.
More than Denny?
It's pretty close. Like he's pretty similar to Denny. But he's young. I think he's younger.
He's probably till 22, I'd guess.
Yeah, look it up. But like it's borderline. I think those two teams are very similar, but like they just have their point guards still. Their star point guards still. And then Orlando.
Oh, Orlando easily. I mean, I think that they got something going on. Paulo, Franz. It's a great start.
Yeah. I think their flaws are easier to address too. Their offense.
Defensively,
flaws.
they're great.
Yeah. I'd take Orlando. So I'd take Portland over Miami and I'd take Portland over Miami and Chicago, but not Atlanta and Orlando.
I would take them over Atlanta and Chicago. So they're right there.
Yeah. All right, now we go to the West. Here's the fun part because this is the teams that they'll be going against.
These are the ones that matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go from 10 on up. Dallas.
Sacramento. Oh, okay, Dallas. I take Dallas. I think Dallas is going to be decent next season.
I don't think they'll ever win a championship with AD or Kyrie as their number one piece, and I think they're screwed for the future, and I think they are so dysfunctional.
What if they go out and they get a KD? What if they go out and they get another guy?
Then they might make the second round. I don't think they'll get KD. Like I don't think they're going to win a championship with this iteration of the team.
I don't either, but I think
like I really do not believe
the Luka trade is so crazy still to me, but like for this season, had AD stayed healthy, had Kyrie stayed healthy, I think Dallas might have been
never
better.
Stays healthy, and Kyrie is now hurt. So
that goes back to me being an Anthony Davis guy. I think Anthony Davis is awesome.
You don't like Anthony Davis.
I think that they could be a sneaky. Now this is just if they get somebody else. If they stand pat, I would probably take the Blazers, but I think they're going to go out and try to get something.
I think KD's the only guy they could get that would actually give them a chance, which I think it's going to be harder said than done. They'd have to trade so much of their depth just to match his contract that then they'd have.
And they'd probably have to get rid of like Lively.
Yeah, and then they're literally kind of like Phoenix last year. I think their core three is obviously better because you have AD instead of like Beal. You know, Kyrie is kind of Bookerish there, but like KD's another year older and. Can you like Kyrie's going to be out half the season? Then can you trust AD to stay healthy? I just don't believe in them, so I'd take Portland over Dallas.
All right, you're probably right.
I also think their ownership group is potentially potentially like trying to relocate long term or like.
It sucks because I like Nico. Nico's cool, man. He's an Oregonian.
Yeah, but that was...
he coached me in summer league basketball once.
You should have told him not to trade a dude named Luca.
What an idiot.
Yeah, that was so stupid.
Sacramento. So, okay, I think we'll both agree. We'll go with Portland over Dallas.
Yeah.
Sacramento.
Sacramento's the easiest one. I'm going Portland.
Yeah, Portland.
They're in a terrible spot. What they did is they went all in to try and make the playoffs, so they drafted a role player at 4 in Keegan Murray, and they made one playoffs, and then they are now stuck in purgatory.
De'Aaron Fox for nothing.
Yeah, and then De'Aaron Fox wanted out, and now Sabonis is going to want out. So what are you going to get back for him? And then you're stuck with like
LaVine
the
Chicago
and
Bulls
DeRozan.
again.
Yeah,
the Bulls with LaVine and DeRozan.
They might be in the worst situation in the league.
I think as a if you're like really hoping the Blazers make the playoffs, you're very glad that the Kings are in the Western Conference because that could be a disaster.
That'll be like the team that they can pass next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Memphis. Ooh. I mean, they got 2 stars, but it's...
Well, that's what I was thinking. Well, do they have 3?
Yeah, Bane is... Well...
Like, is Bane better than Denny?
No.
Like, if you put Desmond Bane on the Blazers, what is he averaging? 24? 25?
I don't think he's averaging that many. I think he's 22 and 5, but
also if you had Peyton Pritchard on the Blazers, is he averaging like 17 and 7?
I think if he's the starting point guard, he'd average like 17, 18 a game. Yeah. But like,
sorry, Memphis. Yeah, like Bane. Like that's my thing is like, I question Memphis, but I also would say I can't say that Bane is worse than Denny Advia. Denny Advia is the best player on the Blazers, and he's their third best player.
I think like post All-Star break, Denny is better than Bane.
Yes.
So
but
it's
that
like
was
if that's
way
if
smaller
that's
sample size.
yeah, basically it's like if that's Denny, then I'll take Denny. But if Denny next season is a little below that, then I'd probably take Bane.
That's why I'd have to go Memphis.
I just think like Denny is capable of taking another step where he's like clearly better than Bane. Like
right,
and
yes.
Bane is what he is. So
he is.
Like
he's not getting better.
Yeah, so like if I had to pick somebody to have on a roster going forward, I'd pick Denny just for that reason. I think here's the thing: is like is Ja gonna ask out? How do they turn the corner? I do think they could be a sneaky team for KD.
Because I even like some of their pieces. Other pieces like Aldama's good, or Aldama
very underrated.
Aldama's good. Pippin's good.
Yeah.
Kennard coming off the bench like to make a couple shots. Like he's not a terrible 10th, 11th man.
Jalen Wells was really good this year.
Jalen Wells is really good this season.
Vince Williams Jr. was very good last year and then got hurt to start this year and then sucked. So.
And then you have young guys like Gigi Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably go Memphis. You talked me into it. I was on the fence, but yeah, I'll take Memphis. And then
Golden State.
Golden State might win
You're
it
older,
all.
though.
Golden State might win it all this year, so I'm taking Golden State.
Are they the biggest threat to the Thunder?
Yes.
I think they are.
Yes, absolutely, 1,000%. Playoff Jimmy. At one point, they were 20-2 with Steph and Jimmy, and they have the experience. Like, absolutely, Steph can
like
just take
getting
over
Jimmy
games.
is so crazy, man.
I like Jimmy and Draymond to defend SGA and Jalen Williams as much as any defensive duo in the league.
Dude, Jalen Williams is gonna have a big series in that one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I trust him.
Jalen Williams is a very strong, like physical player, but you got physical defenders, right? Like that matchup would be very intriguing just to see if like Butler and Draymond can slow down a guy like that.
And your boy Chet is gonna get pushed around in that series.
Chet will be fine. Chet will be okay. I mean, like
he's great, but
I mean, if they put Draymond on Chet, then they're not putting. I mean, Draymond will probably be on Chet, but like Chet can pull him out of the paint at least. I don't know, like
Draymond will draw a couple stupid offensive fouls, and Chet will be all mad. And
that series would be fascinating. I want Warriors Lakers second round, and then I want Warriors Thunder.
And I want the Clippers Thunder second round. I think that sneaky too. Because Kawhi's Kawhi's one of my favorite players of all time. Like he might be like a top 5 favorite player for me all time. Mm-hmm. He's been great.
Yeah.
He's been awesome.
Yeah. It's nice to see him bounce back, especially the question marks at the start of the year. I thought the Clippers were going to be like the Pelicans this year at the start of the season. Like they were going to be the injured team that was terrible. And I was worried because the Thunder had their pick, so I was glad that didn't end up being a thing.
Well, so back to the Blazers. So the only team would be the Kings, right?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that kind of prove how hard it's going to be for the Blazers to get to the play-in next year?
Yeah. Yeah,
And Wemby's coming back. Like, you would take the Spurs.
Take the Spurs.
Take the Pelicans?
No.
Maybe?
No. I mean, Trey Murphy looked like a star this year.
The question of Zion, he was awesome when he played.
Yeah.
Like the Sun, I know the Suns suck, but like they still have dudes.
Nah, I'd tell you, the Suns might be in the worst position in the league. Like I take here's the teams I take the Blazers over in the Western Conference, like going forward. Okay, I'd take them over.
Suns.
I'd take them over the Suns. I'd take them over the Jazz. I'd take them over the Pelicans. I'd take them over the Kings, and I would take them over the Clippers.
Yeah, Clippers are really old.
They have like no assets and they're really old and they're kind of, I feel like, maxed out as a second round team right now.
So that would put the Blazers at what, 11?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be better than the Clippers next year if the Clippers still have a team. I just mean like going forward.
Like going forward though, yeah.
Yeah. They're
I can
definitely
get
not
behind
in a
that.
position to say what Matt Ishbia said last offseason about 26 teams wanting their situation, right? So but that's the thing is, like, things can change in an instant. Like, if Denny is a legitimate star and Sharp takes another step and Scoot takes another step, then the conversation might be completely different. So I don't know. Like,
But my whole point to this whole thing was just like, I'm excited for the Blazers, but like they're still really far away.
yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done, and Cronin's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with Jeremy Grant and with Simons this offseason. And, like, that's the thing is, like, they're kind of celebrating 36 wins, but basically they just kind of – they took a step up, but they also stepped into a really tough spot because if you were really bad and you got Cooper Flag, then things are 10 times easier going forward. You
And
know?
it is possible they still get him.
It is possible.
It's possible.
It is possible.
They had the same odds when they got Odin. Wasn't
Yeah.
it the 10th? They were 10th.
They were sixth, I think, but I think the odds
Are we sure about that?
then. Yeah, they were sixth or seventh. I think they were sixth. But the odds were different. Remember, it was like 25%
right.
number one pick, and then it went down. Now it's top three are the same. So, yeah. Anyway, this offseason, I am so fascinated for this offseason. There's so many things that need to be answered still, and if he doesn't answer them, I think some people are finally going to start giving this front office a little heat. So, you know, if he doesn't do anything, then I'm excited to get to that point. But hopefully he does something. I'm rooting for
and I'm with
Cronin
you.
to
I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people. I'm telling you right now. If Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton are on this roster, like there's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
None.
And then if Eric's ever gone for a post-game show, then I can finally have you co-host a post-game show because that is the only requirement is that you don't like Joe Cronin.
All right. That's why I'm not on more.
Yeah. Obviously, chat, just joking. But we'll spend 2 minutes. If the live chat has any great questions for Steven, we'll answer them. I did not expect to go this long tonight, but, you know, just been so long that
I know. We just need to catch up, dude.
needed to catch up, man. Needed to catch up. It was good. I think this is the first time
I
I've
got
done
tons
that.
of sources, so, you know.
Yeah, what are your sources saying? What are your what's the sauces?
I told you the one. I told you the one about Tumani Kamara, how Joe Cronin said that's who he loves. That was the main part of the trade.
Yeah.
Let me go through my texts here. I think that's about it, really. That's really all I had.
Yeah, I have nothing. No sources. No sources over here.
Oh, I did also hear that Joe Cronin, someone asked him, and this is from someone who doesn't talk to Cronin on the regular, but he passed him and he said, man, how does it feel to have Tumani Kamara on the roster? And then he's like, oh, great. And he's like, how many teams called you at the trade deadline for Kamara? And he said, every single one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that matters, but
Yeah.
just shows how valuable he is.
It was funny because last offseason, like fans of teams were just throwing him in as like a filler piece.
Yeah.
You know? No, he's
Like
all
nothing.
defensive second team. He better be all defensive second team.
He should be. He will be.
Let's see. Chat's in off-season mode. They're not bringing any good questions. Feeling on loose meat sandwiches, like, yeah, this is the off-season. This is what we get when.
Why doesn't
not
Jody
locked in.
speak up and have a press conference? Well, because she just never has.
I mean, she doesn't have to, so why does she need to? You know.
She talks to like literally nobody.
Yeah. But she's such a great owner, though, because they were the last team to get a G League team.
She sat courtside for a couple of games.
Yeah, her
I don't know.
Her yacht was under maintenance. Okay, so
I wish she would talk. If she talked, that would like solve a lot of problems. But I don't think that she ever will. Because you're right, she doesn't have to.
this is a good question. If we got Zion, who would you bring off the bench, assuming we keep our core? Like, let's just say it's Picks and like Ayton. Or let's say it's not Ayton. Let's say it's like Picks and Grant.
Yeah. You keep the 5.
Yeah. Who would you bring off the bench?
Probably Tumani.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think actually the better version of this question is if you got Cooper Flag, who would you bring off the bench?
It's Tumani.
Yeah.
Like, because his offense is still not great.
Yeah.
But he's still playing 35 minutes.
Yeah, his offense is good for what he is, but it's like
right.
Like you need to see what Scoot is as a starter, I think, next year. Tamani, here's how I'll put it. I think it's more important for Scoot and Sharp and Denny to play starters minutes and like have the ball in their hands a lot for their development than it is for Tamani to start, because like he's going to be great defensively even if he's coming off the bench. Right. And what you do is just between Scoot, Sharp, Denny, and Flag, whoever has the worst first 4 or 5 minutes, you sub him out for Tamani. Like if Scoot's struggling to start the game, you sub in Tamani 4 minutes into the game, and you run with like Denny as your point forward with Sharp. Cooper Flag can be kind of a point forward. You have Kamara and you have Klingon or Aiton. Like,
yeah,
Cooper Flag would, dude. Imagine,
so good.
Imagine a lineup with Cooper Flag, Denny Avdia, Tamani Kamara, like a 6'9", 3-and-D guy, and Klingon.
Be so good.
Tamani would be your shortest player at 6'7". You have Cooper Flag, Denny at like 6'9", and both can handle the ball, make plays. Like that defense would be
insane.
Yeah. All those guys could switch, like Tamani, Denny, Flag.
Like, is it
OKC
good?
4.
It's probably not OKC good.
I think it could be OKC good though.
It would be close.
It's like it could be a bigger version of OKC defensively. Hopefully. Because they go small and they scrap and they defend. But that could
it's definitely a championship level defense for sure.
That's the thing about this season. Like at the end of the day is like, yeah, they took a step forward, but Cooper Flag is just, he makes everything perfect. Everything falls into place perfectly with him.
I saw another one that was, does Bert Cold have more say in personnel decisions than fans realize? I know you were big on this, Tori. I think that personnel wise, I don't think that Bert Cold has a huge impact on it. He does have some impact, like he definitely has his opinions, but I think Joe Cronin was trying to make it seem like Bert Cold actually matters more than he does in his press conference. He was trying to make him seem like he really is important.
Here's how I took it: the complete opposite. I took it as Joe Cronin is going to try and make Bert Cold's involvement sound as good as possible, and that if that was his way of doing it, and it's even worse than that, then oh my goodness, it's a mess.
Well, because I've asked people how much Cronin or how much Cold's involved Bert Cold is. One person told me he thinks that Bert Cold's involved with everything. Someone else told me Bert Cold is involved in not much personnel wise, but he will put up his opinion in there and he will make opinion and say things, but he doesn't have the authority to do it. So I've heard the complete opposite.
Who would have authority over him if he doesn't have the authority to do it?
Well, it's not. I guess authority is the wrong word, but he doesn't go in and just say, well, you need to make this move. He lets Cronin do his thing.
Cronin kind of made it sound like that in a better way. You know, he suggests things and he provides insight and he has so much experience. It's just I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll say this, man. If I owned the team, I would meddle, but it would be a good thing.
I would say I would lean more towards he has more impact probably than we think. Well, at least than I think.
Well, I've gotten to the point where it's I'm being a little nicer to Cronin because I think Bert has a lot to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because didn't Paul Allen try and keep him distanced a little bit because he really wanted to be involved?
Well, so I've heard this story where Paul Allen would walk into the conference room and be like, what are we doing? and Bert Cold would go in there like 5 minutes before Paul Allen would go in there. He would talk to all the scouts and say, well, who do we like? Like, what players do we like? And so as soon as Paul Allen would say, what are we doing? Bert Cold would pipe in and say, well, we like this guy, and this guy.
Yeah, I've heard that story. Yeah, I think you.
And so like,
but like,
yeah, so
doesn't that sound like a guy that wants to have a lot to say? Like,
yeah, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know, man.
it's tough.
It's tough. It's tough because I'm not there, so I don't know. But it just.
They just need to.
I would say he has more control than he should. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. They just need to sell the team. The ownership group's a mess. But like, even if he has a lot to say, I just hope that he wants a championship. Like, I've heard recently that I'm not gonna say any names, but basically like, winning a championship is hard, so Portland fans should just be happy with them like going for the playoffs. Essentially, like just like
I'm happy they almost made the play-in, Tori. They had meaningful games in March.
I'd rather. I've always said this. Like, I'd rather try and aim high and completely fail than to settle for mediocrity or settle for being like only kind of good. Yeah. And I told you this, Steven.
That was the problem with Dame. Like, if you threw Dame on this roster, I don't know that they're competitors for a championship, but they're somewhat close.
I've always had that attitude, and I want my sports teams to have that attitude where they're not just going to settle for something less than the best. And I don't know, I think that attitude is why we have 140 people in here at 10:39 p.m. on April 16th after the Blazers missed the playoffs again. So, like, that's the attitude, man. That's the attitude. Just wait till I own the team. All right, I'll come back to reality a little bit, but be competitive. Like, don't just accept that you're not going to be the best. So
they were competitive this year. I will say that.
Yeah. We're celebrating tying for the 11th seed, man. Oh wow, we went from lamenting getting 8th seeds to celebrating 11th seeds. So I guess that's progress, right?
Parade.
Yeah. Anyway, appreciate you hanging out with me, man. It was good to catch up. I want to do these like maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks or so, depending on how much you want to put up with me. It's always fun to talk hoop, and we got the lottery in a month, so maybe we do one more show between now and then we'll talk after the lottery, and we'll see how that shakes out, man. I have said if the Blazers get the number 1 pick, I will do a 24-hour live stream.
Dude, that'd be sick. I'll pop on for like an hour or so.
Yeah, like I'm not talking Blazers that whole 24 hours. I don't know what I'll do. I'd probably play some chess, like I'd have to find ways to fill the time, but I will do a 24-hour live stream if they get the number 1 overall pick. So
let's hope for that. Man. That'd be so good.
Fingers crossed. But anyway, find Steven on Twitter at Steven_Vaughn, VON. VON. And he's a great follow. We're going to be live again on tomorrow. Eric and I, we're going to have our playoff predictions. We're going to predict the playoff bracket, so that'll be fun. And then we have an episode of Hoops Crush on Saturday, tentatively scheduled for 5 p.m. And then our normal Monday, Thursday shows. You got a couple of basketball games on Friday. No NBA action tomorrow, but you do have the Heat and the Hawks for the final seed in the East, and you have the Mavericks and the Grizzlies for the final seed in the West on Friday. And then Saturday, playoffs start, at least the first round of the playoffs. You got Bucks, Pacers, Clippers, Nuggets, Pistons, Knicks, and Timberwolves versus Lakers. So looking forward to talking about some playoffs, man. It's nice. I'm in this new place. I finally got a big TV to watch playoff basketball, and so I'm gonna enjoy it. But I've enjoyed the show, Steven. It's been a pleasure. Any final words?
No, man. Appreciate you. You're the man. It's all love from me when it comes to you, man. I know we're gonna disagree on a lot of things, but we have the same mindset. We just want the Blazers to be good. So, It's no matter how they get there, I'm fine with it. But it's always fun to talk to you, man.
Yeah, it's always fun to have you, man. Always fun to disagree. I enjoy our little debates. So hopefully we can be agreed this offseason on the Blazers doing a good job, but we'll just have to wait and see. Less than a month till the lottery. That'll be a monumental lottery for the Blazers. We are out of here. I will catch you guys live again tomorrow night. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button. Easiest way to support the channel. And we are out of here until next time. As always, peace out. Go Blazers!